Chapter 131. It had been some time since Wuming stayed at Ilya's house. On a certain weekend morning, Wuming brought the last portion of breakfast to the table. "I'm going to eat," everyone said in unison, and then they began their journey of food. "By the way, I've found a place to stay in Winterwood City. I might move out tomorrow," Wuming suddenly said. There was silence at the table. Sela was the first to speak. "I almost forgot. Wuming is clearly staying at our house. I completely treat Wuming as a member of our family." Shiro, Amiya and Lizette both looked at Wuming without saying anything. "Big brother, are you really leaving?" Ilya looked pitifully at Wuming. During the time he lived with Ilya and the others, Wuming had already conquered the 4 people of the House of Einstein Barons with his temperament, smile, personality, and other aspects. Especially Ilya. Because Wuming had a younger sister, Wuming was especially attractive to children, especially children of Ilya's age. He could win the hearts of children. To Ilya, Wuming is not only her older brother's big brother, but also her older brother. This person understands her thoughts, knows how to please her, is incomparably calm, treats everything with a sincere smile, cooks delicious food, and dotes on her even more than her adopted brother, Shiro Amiya. Ilya also forgot the fact that Wuming is only staying at their house. Wuming wanted to laugh at this matter that made everyone frown. "I'm just not staying at this house. I didn't say that I won't come back in the future." After Wuming said this, everyone realized that Wuming said that he had found a place to stay in Winterwood City and didn't say that he was leaving. When everyone heard that Wuming wasn't staying here, they ignored what Wuming had said. Seeing that everyone was obviously relieved, Wuming smiled and said, "I will come often, don't worry." "Hey big brother, can we go to your house and take a look?" Ilya asked. Sela also said, "Yes, Wuming, you don't know anyone in Winterwood City. Even if you move into a new house, no one will celebrate. We can help you tidy up the house and celebrate." Seeing Shiro, Amiya and Lizette nodding, Wuming looked at Sela and Ilya's expectant eyes and smiled. "All right then. Yeah, that's great." Ilya jumped up in excitement. "Ilya, be a lady, be a lady." "Ah yes, yes, I know, Mama Sela." Everyone was once again amused by this common scene. On the edge of Winterwood City, which was originally a wasteland, a huge Japanese-style mansion appeared here. Ilya, Sela, Lizette, and Shiro looked at this scene with a dumbfounded expression. So amazing! When did such a building appear on the edge of Winterwood City? This is too big!" everyone exclaimed. To the stunned crowd, Wuming opened the door of the mansion and said, "So, are you still going to help me clean my room?" Sela heard Wuming's teasing tone and immediately said, "Of course, I'm the head maid of the House of Einstein Barons. Such a small house can't stump me." As he spoke, he strode in with large stride. "Mama Sela, don't tell me you really want to clean Big Brother's house," Ilya complained. "With Aunt Sela's personality, she might really do that." Shiro Amiya wiped his cold sweat and smiled awkwardly. Lizette didn't say anything and walked in directly. Shiro Amiya and Ilya, who were worried about the two of them, also hurriedly walked in. Wuming wasn't in a hurry to go in. Wuming looked at this familiar house, and Wuming recalled the Amiya mansion in the other world. This Japanese-style mansion, which was somewhat similar to the Amiya mansion, was made by Wuming based on the Amiya mansion. Position creation. Yexei's a magician, he could create a terrain that was advantageous to him in a short time. As long as there were materials, he could even create a shrine that had been worshipped before. Wuming used his ability as a caste to build this mansion on the first night he stayed at Ilya's house. It was Wuming's magic workshop. Because he was afraid of trouble, Wu Ming had set up a spiritual interference-type enchantment to create the illusion that a house was being built here for the passers-by. After estimating that it was about time, Wu Ming removed the barrier. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, this was a mansion that had been built for a long time. This place was originally the address of the Amiya mansion in the other world. At this moment, Wu-ming continued to use this address. If Mayu comes to this world, then I'll build a home for her, Wu-ming said. The two words Shuoyu were written on the door plate next to the mansion's entrance. Wu-ming had reported his name as Shuoyu Wu-ming. Although Ilya and the others felt that it was a little strange, they still accepted it. After all, following the surname Amiya was a little special. Then, Wu-ming walked into the Shuoyu mansion. In the courtyard, Ilya and the others were shocked. As expected, big brother, you're very rich, Ilya suddenly asked. It's okay, but money is just a number to me. This was what Wu-ming, who had saved some gold bars in the other world, said. Moreover, Wu-ming didn't spend any money on this mansion. It was a magic workshop that was completely created out of thin air. Wu-ming had already solved the problems of the house deed and land deed with magic. Of course, the money that should be spent was still spent. I really couldn't tell. Is Wu-ming-kun so rich? Then how did you end up staying at our house? Sela asked in confusion. Wu-ming smiled in response. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have known you. Well, that's true. Let's help Wu-ming-kun tidy up the house first. It must be very troublesome to tidy up such a big house. If we don't hurry, we won't be able to make it in time for dinner tonight, Sela said. Then, she began to tidy up the room with Ilya, Lizette, and Shiro Amiya. Wu-ming also helped from the side. In fact, Wu-ming brought the four to his house to test them. After all, whether it was Shiro Amiya or Ilya, the four of them all had excellent magic circuits. Now, it seemed that the four of them were really living as ordinary people. Soon, the five of them finished tidying up Wu-ming's mansion. Although the house is big, there is surprisingly nothing to tidy up, Shiro Amiya said. Well, after all, after this house was built, I only bought some furniture from the store. I don't have any luggage, so it looks like there are many rooms in the house, but in fact, there isn't much to tidy up, Wu-ming said. Then, let's go make dinner. Ilya raised her small hand and said excitedly. You want to eat Wu-ming's cooking, right? Lizette complained. Ilya, who was exposed, blushed. Everyone laughed. Chapter 132. In the Shuoyu mansion, Wu-ming was the head chef, Shiro Amiya and Sela acted as assistants. A perfect and sumptuous meal appeared on the table. Ilya couldn't wait to pick up a piece of meat and then had a look of enjoyment on her face. Big brother's cooking is as delicious as always. Wu-ming picked up vegetables and put them in Ilya's bowl. Then, he smiled and said, Eat more if it's delicious. After all, you won't be able to eat my cooking every day in the future. After hearing Wu-ming's words, Ilya had a gloomy expression. Really, if only Big Brother was a member of our family. Shiro Amiya and Sela also nodded. As if thinking of something, a sly glint flashed in her vermilion eyes. Then, she pretended to casually say, If only Wu-ming and Sela could get married. Sela was like a cat whose hair stood on end. What are you talking about, Lizette? How is it possible to get married? Looking at the blushing Sela, the corner of Lizette's mouth curved up slightly. But, Sela, aren't you already at the age of marriage? It just so happens that Shiro's big brother is about the same age as you. He's young, rich, gentle, and considerate. He can take care of the house and cook. His cooking is enough to support you. Don't miss this opportunity. After hearing Sela's words, Shiro Amiya and the blushing Ilya also reacted. Young, handsome, gentle, considerate, and elegant. He has such a big house and doesn't lack money. Most importantly, he can cook well. So Big Brother is this outstanding? That was the thought of the two at this moment. Even Sela, who was blushing and stuttering, had a hesitant expression. She looked at Wu-ming with uncertain eyes. This made Wu-ming feel a little awkward. Wu-ming knew himself well. Although his current personality wasn't bad, it was still somewhat different from Wu-ming's original personality. After all, the current Hyunryong caster's body had such a gentle and considerate character. Even the skills had a bit of favorability bonus. Wu Ming's original calm, bold, and decisive personality as a problem child could no longer be seen. The point was that Wu Ming knew that she was joking. After spending so many days together, apart from Shiro Amiya, whose personality hadn't changed much, Wu Ming understood Sella, Ilya, and Ligerite very well. She usually looked weak and listless, but in reality, she was very good at finding entertainment for herself. Take Sella for example. During the days that Wu Ming stayed at Ilya's house, he had seen Sella being teased by Lilith more than once. Therefore, Wu Ming coughed for the embarrassment caused by this little demon-like girl. Ahem, I will also go to your house on weekdays, please rest assured. Although he said that, he still finished the meal awkwardly. Before leaving, Wu Ming stood outside his house, and Ilya and the others stood in front of Wu Ming. Then we will go first, Sella said, although Sella still blushed when she looked at Wu Ming at the moment. Well, please be careful on the road, Shiro. As a man, you must protect others. Shiro Amiya smiled and then said to Wu Ming, Winterwood City is usually very safe. In this regard, Wu Ming looked at Shiro Amiya with a brother, I am very disappointed look. Shiro Amiya smiled awkwardly. Big brother, you have to come often. Ilya looked at Wu Ming expectantly. Wu Ming squatted down, touched Ilya's head, and said, I will. Watching the four figures disappear into the distance, Wu Ming didn't prepare to return to the house until the four figures disappeared around the corner. At this moment, a magical fluctuation came. Wu Ming didn't stay idle these days. He went out in the name of work and set up some detection-type enchantments in Winterwood City, which were specially set up to detect magical fluctuations. Among the tactics that Wu Ming had set up, the only thing that could cause a fluctuation was a class card. Did it appear? Class cards. Wu Ming jumped onto the roof and went to the place where the class cards were. On the other half of the Winterwood Bridge, Wu Ming walked over. Wu Ming walked to a place and looked for the center of the mirror world. Is it here, Collis? Wu Ming stood on a flat ground and said to Collis, Yes, master, you can now teleport to the mirror world through a special spell. The golden-green dragon horn headdress appeared. Well, let's get started. Then, a special magic circle appeared under Wu Ming's feet. The magic array spun and changed continuously. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared, and Silent Wonder disappeared from where he stood. At this moment, Wu Ming had entered the mirror world. Almost after a few minutes, a spell reappeared in the same place. Wu Ming appeared in the same place with a light. There was no change, no embarrassment, but he was holding a card in his hand. The mysterious old man was wearing a hooded robe, with a white beard to his waist, holding a staff and a magic book. This was the same caster class card as Wu Ming. Wu Ming looked at the caster class card and said, Sure enough, this is indeed the class card I encountered in another world. After Wu Ming entered the mirror world, he met a purple-haired woman wearing a magic robe and holding a magic wand. At a glance, Wu Ming could tell that the other party's uniform was the same as the heroic spirit state that Atlam had used that day. In order to find out the other party's real name, Wu Ming deliberately entangled with the other party for a while. Wu Ming was not afraid of the other party's trump card. Wu Ming had already taken out his mythical Yggdrasil. As the same level of existence as Gibalg, although Wu Ming's mythical Yggdrasil didn't have the effect of the heart attack, as an army-level noble phantasm, caster, who didn't even have a magic workshop, was nothing to be afraid of. Yes, after the appearance of the caster class card, Wu Ming came here for the first time. Caster in the mirror world didn't even have time to prepare a magic workshop. Wu Ming directly found him. After releasing a lot of kamikaze magic, Caster was forced by Wu Ming to take out his noble phantasm. After Wu Ming revealed his real name, Wu Ming easily defeated Caster. So that's how it is, no wonder you can use so many kamikaze magic. You deserve to be the legendary traitor Demetrius. Yes, the real name of Wu Ming's card was Demetrius, the one who was once feared and pitiful. Chapter 133. Demetrius, the traitor witch, existed in Greek mythology. The princess of Colchis, because of the curse of the goddess of beauty Aphrodite, fell in love with the leader of the hero ship Argo, Aeson's curse. In order to find the golden fleece, she betrayed her motherland, and killed her brother who came to find her, and cut him into 8 pieces. In the end, because of Aeson's betrayal, she killed Aeson's new love and her 2 biological sons. As the betrayal witch, Demetrius had her life's materialization noble artifact, Rule Breaker Talisman, Rule Breaker. The effect of the Rule Breaker rune was to return all magic spells that lasted for a certain period of time to their original state before the spell was cast. In short, it was to break all magic and return all magic to its original state. It was also because Wooming released a lot of magic that Demetrius took out Rule Breaker Talisman, which allowed Wooming to recognize the other party's real name. It's just that the appearance of the class card is a bit abnormal. That's right, Wu Ming had asked Bazette about the time when the 2 class cards would appear. The difference between the 2 was almost 2 months, but the time when Wooming appeared was a month. Now the time when the caster class card appeared was more than half a month. Wooming felt that the remaining 4 class cards were likely to appear together. Well, let's talk about it later. After that, Wooming directly opened the portal and walked in. The night continued quietly like this. The next day, Wooming got up early and began the meditation at the beginning of the day. Almost an hour later, Wooming's door was knocked. Wooming opened his eyes and projected the view in front of the door in front of him. Ilya? Wooming said in confusion. Yes, it was Ilya standing in front of his door. Wooming got up and quickly walked to the door. After opening the door, Ilya said happily, "Big brother! Ilya? Are you the only one who came here?" Wooming looked at Ilya first, then looked around and found that there was no one else. "Well, I'm the only one here," Ilya replied. In this regard, Wooming frowned and then said, "That won't do, Ilya, although my home is very close to yours, because my home is on the edge of Winterwood City. Try not to come alone in the future. At least find someone to accompany you." "I'm sorry, I won't do it again," Ilya said with a blush. "Well, Ilya, why are you free to come to me today?" Wooming responded to Ilya and asked. Ilya was somewhat unhappy. She puffed up her cheeks and looked at Wooming somewhat angrily. "Really, Big Brother said that he would take me to the amusement park at the end of this week. Big Brother wants to go back on his word?" Only then did Wu Ming recall that he had indeed said this sentence. It was an afternoon almost a week ago. Wooming drank afternoon tea and leisurely watched TV. Ilya came back from school, looking a little listless. Wooming immediately saw that Ilya was in a bad mood. As a member of the family, Wooming asked, "What's wrong, Ilya?" Ilya said unhappily, "I fell asleep in class today and was lectured by the teacher." Wooming recalled that last night, he and Ilya were playing with the high-level jigsaw puzzle that he had just bought. There were a total of 20,000 jigsaw puzzles. With Wooming's wisdom and Ilya's hard work, the two finally finished the jigsaw puzzle around 12 o'clock. Because Wooming wanted to deliberately hide his inhuman characteristics, he did not put much effort into the jigsaw puzzle. These jigsaw puzzles were basically put together by Wooming, who kept reminding Ilya. This led to Ilya's lack of energy and also led to Ilya being reprimanded by the teacher, so when she returned home, she looked unhappy. Sorry, it's all my fault. How about this, I'll invite Ilya to play at the amusement park next weekend, how about it?" Wooming quickly said with an apologetic smile. "Really? Long live Big Brother?" Ilya happily hugged Wooming and shouted. This loud voice attracted the attention of Sela, who had the goal of cultivating Ilya into a virtuous lady. "Ilya, don't be so loud at home, be a virtuous lady, understand?" Sela ran out of the kitchen and began lecturing Ilya without changing her clothes. Although it was called lecturing, in fact, she was gently advising. This was different from Shiro Amiya. When dealing with Shiro Amiya, Sela was as strict as possible, making Shiro Amiya extremely embarrassed. After regaining his senses, Wuming said, "Sorry, Ilya, I forgot about it because of work." "Really? How could you forget? I've been looking forward to going to the amusement park alone with Big Brother for a long time." Ilya's face was a little red as she spoke. "How about this, Ilya? You sit in my house for a while, how about it?" "Okay." Ilya was obediently led by Wuming to the edge of the courtyard. Ilya sat on the edge, while Wuming went into the house to prepare. Soon, Wuming stood behind Ilya fully armed. Wuming said, "Let's go, Ilya." Ilya turned her head and nodded heavily. "Okay, let's hurry up and set off." Soon, Wuming brought Ilya to Winterwood City's amusement park and found that it was not bad. After buying the tickets to the amusement park, Wuming held Ilya's little hand and walked into the amusement park. "What do you want to do first, Ilya?" Wuming asked Ilya. Ilya pointed at the merry-go-round not far away and said happily, "Let's play this first." Then, Ilya pulled Wuming's hand to the side of the merry-go-round and began a day of fun. Wuming and Ilya had played almost all the facilities in the amusement park. They had basically played pirate ships, haunted houses, bumper cars, merry-go-round, Ferris wheels, and so on. Ilya had lunch in the amusement park's restaurant and looked a little dissatisfied. As expected, after getting used to Big Brother's cooking, "I can't taste these dishes that were originally delicious," Ilya said as she ate. "These dishes are already very delicious. It's not bad to change the taste occasionally," Wuming said from the side. "That's right, Big Brother, tell me about your past." Ilya's little face revealed an expectant expression. "Past? Let me think about it." Only then did Wuming recall that he could be said to have many adventures now. It was enough to publish a book. In the beginning, there was a young man called Wuming. Chapter 134. Wuming adapted what he had experienced and told Ilya the adventure story of an ordinary person. When he finished, it was almost evening. "It's already so late. Let's go back, Ilya." Wuming patted Ilya's head. "Okay." Ilya and Wuming held hands and walked out of the amusement park together. On the way, Ilya revealed a happy expression. "Big Brother, your experience is really good, amazing." "Big Brother, are you an adventurer?" Ilya asked. "Kind of. I like to travel around." In an instant, Ilya revealed an envious and yearning expression. "That's great. Mama Sila doesn't let me do anything exciting. I really envy Big Brother." After hearing Ilya's words, Wuming patted Ilya's head and smiled. "This is because Sila has to think about your safety. Adventure is not a simple thing. It's full of danger everywhere. That's why I said that you should just be a good primary school student." Ilya, whose head was patted by Wuming, turned her little head unhappily. "I know." Seeing Ilya like this, Wuming smiled. "If there's a chance next time, I'll take you on an adventure, Ilya." Ilya's expression changed from depressed to expectant. "Really? That's great." Ilya hugged Wuming happily. Then, while the two chatted, Wuming and Ilya arrived in front of the house of Einstein Barons. At the corner not far in front of the house, a tomboy was looking here. "Bazette?" Wuming narrowed his eyes. Originally, Wuming wanted to cook dinner at Ilya's house according to her wishes, but Bazette's arrival seemed to indicate that something had happened. "Sorry, Ilya, I just remembered that I have something important to do. I can't go to your house. You can go back first." They had clearly arrived at Ilya's doorstep, but Wuming said that he had something to do. However, Ilya wasn't an unreasonable person. In her opinion, since Big Brother said that there was something, then there must be something. "And alright then. Goodbye, Big Brother. You must come again next time." After waving goodbye to Ilya, Wuming walked to Bazette's seat. "Did something happen?" Wuming asked. Bazette simply nodded and said, "The card you gave me has been discovered." Wuming was stunned for a moment, then he said, "It's Zelik, right?" Bazette nodded again. "Yes." Wuming shook his head in surprise. That old man is quite impressive. Just how many parallel worlds has he connected to? Wu-ming smiled and mumbled to himself. Bazette didn't say anything. First, it was because Bazette couldn't understand what Wu-ming said. Second, even if Bazette could understand, it had nothing to do with her. She was only here to pass on the message. That sir has asked you to go, Bazette said. Understood. I'll go now. After saying that, Wu-ming opened the teleportation gate and walked in under Bazette's shocked gaze. Suddenly, Wu-ming's head stretched out from the pitch-black and red teleportation gate. Do you want to come together? Bazette was silent, but he still looked at Wu-ming with a look of resistance. Wu-ming faintly smiled and grabbed Bazette. Waff! Bazette let out a panicked scream. Far away on the other side of the continent, in the upper floor of the clock tower in England, outside Zelika's door, a pitch-black and red teleportation gate appeared. Wu-ming pulled Bazette's arm and walked out of the teleportation gate. You're really clumsy, Wu-ming commented. Bazette's face was a little red as he stared fiercely at Wu-ming. In response to Bazette's stare, Wu-ming shrugged and then walked into Zelika's room. Bang! Following the sound of the door closing, only Bazette was left in the hallway. After tidying up his clothes, Bazette left as well. In the room, Wu-ming walked to the sofa and sat down. Finally, he poured himself a cup of tea. You're really self-conscious, Hyun-ryong. The old man sitting on the chair in the dim room laughed. It's your face every time. Even if you don't find it annoying, I do. Wu-ming looked at Zelik with disdain. Ha ha ha, I was a popular man when I was young. Zelik laughed. Wu-ming understood the old man's character. He couldn't help it. He met him once in every world. He couldn't not understand him. You know what's going on with the class card, right? Zelik said. Well, after all, this is also something that I contributed to. Wu-ming took a sip of tea and said. Why, Gem Wu-ming wants to study it. Just in time, I have a caster class card here. Wu-ming said as he took out a card. Zelik smiled and said, I'm not interested in this, but some people in the clock tower are interested in the class card, so they sent Mark Remus to collect the class card. What do you mean? Wu-ming asked. I don't have anything that you want. How about this, I'll give you this, and you stop collecting the class card. Later, Zelik took out a suitcase, which seemed to contain very valuable items because the suitcase was surrounded by various charms. Zelik opened the suitcase and revealed the items inside. This is... Wu-ming was surprised. Inside the suitcase was a clay plate, and the clay plate was full of ancient aura. This is the clay plate excavated from the Two Rivers Basin. Not to mention that the clay plate has the quality of a holy relic, it also contains the magic of the god. It is a rare original magic book. This made Wu-ming think carefully. You know, the original magic book is also a very powerful tool for Wu-ming, and it can also be used as a holy relic. Wu-ming speculated that if he summoned it with his own affinity, it must be the Hero King. Deal. After a while, Wu-ming left Zelika's office. Wu-ming returned to the Shuyu house through the portal. Before that, Wu-ming wanted to give the caster class card to Zelik, but Zelik said, I'll leave it with you first. Since people have said so, Wu-ming will not be unreasonable. According to Zelik, in about a week, Zelik will send people from the clock tower to Winterwood City again. The world of the class cards mentioned by Zelik has been estimated, almost a week later, so the rest of the class cards will appear. Zelik asked Wu-ming to help the magician who was sent to recover the cards. First, Zelik didn't want the cards to fall into the hands of the clock tower's higher-ups who were not too good. Second, Zelik hoped to train the magician who was sent. Only the magician who came to support the recovery of the cards. Well, it has nothing to do with me anyway. Wu-ming threw the card casually, and the card fell into the golden ripples. Wu-ming turned and returned to the house. Chapter 135. A week later, Wu-ming sat in the yard and meditated every day. After a while, Wuming exhaled softly and then opened his eyes. All the rank cards have appeared. Wuming thought. Because the place where the rank cards appeared was the location of Winterwood City's small spiritual veins, Wuming's detection technique near the spiritual veins in Winterwood City had almost been destroyed by the rank card. This proved that the remaining 4 rank cards had all appeared. Moreover, because Zelik was going, Wuming put the caster rank card back in the position next to the Winterwood Bridge, so that the caster rank card reappeared. This was also a cover-up. After all, only Wuming and Zelik knew that the caster rank card had been recycled. Even Bazette, who had recycled 2 rank cards, did not know that the caster rank card had appeared and was recycled by Wuming. Since Wuming's purpose at the moment was to find Mayu, it could be said that Wuming had single-handedly contributed to the emergence of the rank cards. I hope that Mayu will appear after the rank cards appear. Wuming sighed. In the 5 years of living with Mayu, it seemed that Mayu could do anything and seemed to be a genius child, but Wuming knew that this was just the result of Mayu's own efforts. Because of Mayu's request, Wuming even bought college-type books home, and Mayu read them all. Mayu was very smart, really smart, but because of her childhood experience, Mayu's emotional loss. Mayu was really not good at dealing with people, the ways of the world, and so on. This was why Wuming was worried about Mayu. Wuming got up and was ready to meet the magician who was responsible for the recycling of the rank cards recommended by Zelik. Because there were no disasters, Winterwood City developed very quickly. As for why there were no buildings in the open space in front of the Shuayu residence, it was purely because there was a mountain here, and there were no economic benefits to be taken advantage of. The developer was secretly very grateful to Wuming for buying this land. On the other side of Winterwood City was the Winterwood City Airport. Wuming used the Loon Rune to make himself invisible. He stood on a tall building and looked at the airport exit. Soon, a girl in red and a girl in blue entered Wuming's sight. Her red hair was loose, and there were 2 ponytails in her loose hair. Her eyes were green, and she wore a red top and a black short skirt. Black knee socks wrapped around her healthy and beautiful thighs, revealing her fair and absolute territory. Blue had a head of golden curly hair that was adorned with pale blue ribbons. She wore a blue gown that made people's eyes light up. Her fair skin was set off by the blue gown, and her eyes were like amber gems. She was constantly emitting an elegant aura. The reason why Wuming believed that this person was the magician who came to recycle the rank cards was because of the lapis lazuli Kalas barrel. Kalas was the most advanced magic dress made by Zelik. With the existence of artificial spirits, Kalas, who sacrificed her attack and focused on assisting, easily felt the existence of her own kind. Master, those 2 humans have my kind on them. Kalas, are you saying that they have the magic dress made by Zelik? Wuming said against the wind. Yes, master. Then Wuming looked at the 2 girls more attentively. To be able to make Zelik take out the most advanced magic dress, Zelik really values these 2 girls. However, Wuming smiled and continued, it's just that these 2 don't have a good relationship. Kalas, there's a good show to watch. I don't think there will be a good show. You're still as bad as ever, master. Kalas complained. Well, what's wrong with that? It's a good opportunity to understand their methods. With that, Wuming disappeared through a portal. On the other side, Rin Enosaka and Luvia walked side by side on the road, pulling their suitcases. The 2 of them glared at each other. What a remote place, Rin Enosaka. Luvia, who was wearing a blue dress, mocked him elegantly. If you don't like it, you can leave, Luvia Sarinta Eiderfelt. Rin Enosaka said fiercely. Oh, I forgot. Barbarians don't fit in here. This time, it was Rin Enosaka's turn to mock. Of course I won't fit in your monkey country. Luvia glared. At this moment, a frivolous female voice came from Rin Enosaka's suitcase. Aya, why are you 2 fighting again? You were at the airport just now, and now you're fighting again. Shut up, Ruby! Rin Enosaka roared, It's all this barbarian's fault. What? You're just a monkey, it's clearly your fault. Luvia also roared. The noble aura that the two of them had instantly disappeared, as if they had been beaten back to their original selves. Seriously, you two are going to work together to recover the rank cards. You have to get along well. The voice called Ruby came from Rin Enosaka's suitcase again. My sister is right, Luvia-sama. Please maintain a good relationship with Rin-sama. A female voice also came from Luvia's suitcase. However, this voice was more cold and steady. Maintain a good relationship? What are you talking about, Sapphire? I don't want it. Exactly, who wants to maintain a good relationship with a barbarian? Their words became more and more heated. Then, Rin Enosaka said, if that's the case, then we'll have to fight. Luvia nodded. Looks like this is the only way to tame this monkey. Then, the two of them waved their hands and shouted, transform! Then, what happened next shocked even Wuming, who was secretly following behind them. Two magic wands flew out from their suitcases and landed in Rin Enosaka's and Luvia's hands. Then, Rin Enosaka and Luvia's bodies began to glow. When the glow dissipated, their clothes became animal-like magical girl costumes. Then, the two of them flew into the sky and began their battle of magical girl costumes. Wu Ming, on the other hand, revealed himself and looked at the two people flying into the sky in a daze. What's this? Magical girl? Then, as if he remembered something, Wu Ming quickly asked, Kalas, don't tell me you can transform the user too? Kalas was silent. Wu Ming covered his face and said shamefully, I knew it. Zelik, that old fox, wouldn't let me take advantage of him. Then, Wu Ming used the invisibility rune again, entered the invisible state, and flew up into the sky. Chapter 136. Rin Enosaka and Luvia continued to attack. Magic bullets danced in the air, occasionally engaging in close-range combat. Although it was beautiful, these attacks weren't that simple. Zelrich's magic attire could make an ordinary person comparable to a first-rate magician. Just from this alone, it was enough to see the power of rubies and sapphires. Wuming was a little bored, and after a while, Luvia found an opportunity to hit Rin Enosaka. Although Rin Enosaka wasn't injured because of the ruby's protection, his face was still covered in dust. The ruby on his hand said so. I've been using protection all the time, but at this distance, I can't block all the attacks. Luvia laughed and mocked. Oh ha ha ha, you better disappear quickly, Rin Enosaka. Rin Enosaka said with a suppressed voice, Is that so? I can understand your feelings, in that case. Then, Rin Enosaka took out a card with an archer's face on it. Let's use this to decide the winner. Luvia's eyes narrowed as well. She then took out her class card as well. There was a ranger holding a gun on it. Come on then. The two of them raised their staffs at the same time and stuck their class cards onto their staffs as they yelled out. Class card. Archer, archer. Include. Class card. Lancer, lancer. Include. Just when Wuming thought something would happen, nothing happened. Except for the awkwardness. Hey Ruby, what's going on? Rin Enben grabbed the ruby in confusion and poked it with his rank card. Luvia was also puzzled and asked Sapphire, What's going on, Sapphire? Aya, that's about enough, you two. The wings on the ruby's staff were like an anthropomorphic figure, making a helpless gesture. The reason why Master gave you the starry staff is because he wants you to work together to recover the class card. Luvia, who didn't get along with Rin Enosaka, wouldn't let go of this opportunity to mock Rin Enosaka. Ohoho serves him right, Rin Tozaka. He was taught a lesson by his own magic staff. Luvia cackled in the style of a queen. It seems that I'm the only one qualified to hold the starry wand. Luvia had a smug look on her face. No, Lady Luvia is the same. Sapphire suddenly said. While what? Luvia asked in surprise. In view of Lord Luvia's attitude towards the mission as if no one else was present, I already believe that Lord Luvia has lost the qualifications to become the master. What are you talking about? Sapphire. Luvia stared at Sapphire in disbelief. Naturally, Rin and Osaka, who didn't like Luvia, wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. Who was the one who said he was qualified? How interesting. Rin and Osaka mocked. Shut up. Luvia's face was filled with indignation. At this moment, the ruby in Rin Enben's hand said, "Anyway, that's it." Then, Ruby and Sapphire pulled the two of them away from their hands. "Please forgive us for acting on our own initiative. Please allow us to leave for a while." Ruby and Sapphire said together, "Damn it, get back here. A mere wand dares to defy its master?" Rin and Osaka said in exasperation. "Ha ha. I'm so sorry, Miss Rin is no longer my master." Ruby made a frivolous sound. "You bastard, I'll never let you go, Sapphire." Luvia said in exasperation. "I'm so sorry, original master." "Oh right." Ruby reminded them, "You've already exited your transformation state. If you don't think of a way, you'll fall." Ruby said cheerfully. At this moment, Rin and Osaka and Luvia realized that their clothes had returned to their original state. Wah wah! Rin and Osaka and Luvia cried out in pain as they fell. A scream resounded through the sky. Ruby flapped her wings and said, "Take care." Then Ruby and Sapphire left. Wooming appeared and shook his head with a smile. "What a pair of clowns, whether it's the wands or the magician. What do you think, Collis?" Wooming asked Collis. "Although it's necessary to determine if the user has the qualifications to be a master, it's too dangerous for the user to deactivate their transformation in the air." Collis's cold voice sounded. "If Collis thinks that I don't have the qualifications, will she also leave me?" Wooming asked. "No, master. You're Collis's master for life. This won't change." Collis replied in an anxious voice. I know. I just wanted to see Collis's anxious face. After all, you've shown too little of your feelings." Wooming smiled. In the past 5 years, Wooming had already improved Collis's favorability. Wooming didn't treat Collis as a tool, but as a life. That's why Collis was so loyal to Wooming. In fact, even if Collis wanted to leave Wooming, it was impossible. The magic costume Collis had been completely transformed into Wooming's noble phantasm. Therefore, the master-servant relationship might be forever. "You're still as bad as ever, master." Collis's cold voice returned. Sorry. Wooming smiled. At that time, the residual detection technique Wooming set up in Winterwood City worked. "This is?" Wooming was a little excited and flew to that place at a very fast speed. A little girl was walking on the road. Because her clothes were thin, the little girl found a piece of clothes in the garbage on the side of the road. The little girl didn't dislike it and put it on directly. Looking at the strange and familiar place, the little girl was a little lost. Brother Wooming. Brother Shiro. The little girl couldn't help but think of her 2 brothers. Although Mayu was sad, she was still strong enough not to cry. After Shiro Amiya made a wish, Mayu had already come to this world when she opened her eyes. Mayu thought about Shiro Amiya's last move. As if he noticed something, Shiro Amiya was a little shocked, and then he reacted. "Mayu, my brother asked me to tell you that I'm sorry, we'll be separated for a while." Then, Shiro Amiya directly used the spell on the scroll given by Wooming and made a wish. In Mayu's eyes, Shiro Amiya directly made a wish, then resolutely turned around and left. Mayu, who hadn't figured out what happened, came to this strange world. "Mayu!" Then an excited voice came. Chapter 137. Mayu! Following an emotional voice, Mayu raised her head. A warm embrace embraced Mayu. "Woo! Brother Wooming," Mayu said in disbelief as she raised her head. Mayu, who had always been strong and not shed tears, actually shed tears at this moment. After all, a second ago they were told to be apart for a while. After preparing herself, they met again in the next second. This was hard for a 10-year-old child to accept. "I'm sorry, Mayu, I've made you suffer," Wuming said with some heartache. Then, he wiped away Mayu's tears with his hand. "It's okay, Brother Wuming still found me in the end." Mayu shook her head. Wuming hugged Mayu tightly with self-reproach. Looking at Mayu's old and smelly coat, Wuming could imagine. A little girl, who had no relatives or friends in this world, appeared on the streets in thin clothes. In order to not let her body feel cold, the little girl dug out old clothes from the trash and put them on. After all, Mayu was a weak little girl. Wuming didn't teach Mayu magic. Firstly, it was to let Mayu have a stable life. Secondly, Mayu didn't like magic. Fortunately, there were no human traffickers in Winterwood City. If Mayu was kidnapped by human traffickers and something happened to her, Wuming might destroy this world. There was no doubt that Wuming could do such a thing. As the origin dragon from the Great Origin, Wuming had the confidence and the determination to destroy everything for Mayu. After all, she was a sister. She was meant to be loved. How could he let his sister suffer? Wuming gently took off Mayu's old clothes and put his clothes on Mayu. Then, Wuming picked up Mayu and said, "Let's go, Mayu. Let's go home." Mayu's eyes widened. "Home?" "Yes, a home that only belongs to us." Wuming smiled and nodded. Wuming immediately opened a portal and brought Mayu to the Shuoyu residence. Where the two of them were originally standing, a magic wand appeared. The wand lingered on the spot where Wu Ming was standing. Then, as if it had found something, the magic wand immediately turned and headed in a certain direction. Wuming took a bath with Mayu and gave her a new set of clothes. Then, under Wuming's care, Mayu fell asleep peacefully. Wuming walked out of the room. "Looks like Mayu is really tired. She fell asleep as soon as I started telling her the story." Wuming had just started telling Mayu the story when he noticed that Mayu's breathing had stabilized. After testing, Miss Mayu's mental state has gone through ups and downs. It's not strange for her to have this kind of situation. Collis explained. "I know. But I'm still worried about Mayu." Wuming sighed and said. Wuming was still blaming himself. "If only I didn't go and watch the fight between Rin Tasaka and Luvia. If only I had discovered Mayu earlier. If only I didn't find it troublesome to set up an all-around detection tactic in Fuyuki City." Wuming kept blaming himself. After all, when he first saw Mayu, Mayu's expression was something that Wuming would never forget. Shaking his head, Wuming decided not to think about it. After all, Mayu was back. Wuming wouldn't let Mayu suffer anymore. "Alright, since it's still early, let's buy some daily necessities and ingredients for Mayu." As he spoke, Wuming walked out of the Shuoyu mansion. At this moment, a blue magic staff arrived outside the Shuoyu mansion. "This is a magic workshop? Who built such a large and powerful magic workshop?" Blue Baisher said. "We have to go in first." Then, Sapphire began to analyze the barriers outside the Shuoyu mansion. Because of Mei Yu's arrival, the Shuoyu residence was opened by Wu Ming with 7 major barriers and 21 minor barriers. A total of 28 barriers formed a grand barrier. Even if Blue Baisher had the highest level of magic attire, without an owner, he wouldn't be able to decipher the barrier. Moreover, even if he had an owner, he might not be able to decipher the barrier. However, if Sapphire was given time, she might be able to decipher it. However, there wasn't enough time. Wuming hid his presence and hovered in the air, watching Sapphire's every move. As soon as Sapphire arrived near the Shuoyu mansion, Wuming had already noticed. Because Wuming knew that the starry staff meant no harm, Wuming didn't stop it. Wuming's magic workshop wasn't like other magicians. If it wasn't invaded, it wouldn't be discovered. The magic workshop had already set up a detection tactic in the 1,000 meters surrounding the Shuoyu mansion. Under Wuming's instructions, Sapphire quickly opened an entrance to the Shuoyu mansion. Otherwise, with Sapphire's current condition, it might take a long time to decipher the barrier. Then, Sapphire flew in. Are you looking for Mayu to be your new owner? Wu Ming said. Wu Ming thought about it and decided to let Mayu make the decision. Wu Ming now understood that he couldn't always be by Mayu's side. Mayu had to strengthen herself. Even in this peaceful world, Mayu had to at least be able to protect herself. Wu Ming no longer paid attention to the Shuayu mansion situation and left. After a while, Wu Ming returned with some purchased items. Wu Ming walked into the house and put down various ingredients and daily necessities. Wu Ming turned his head and looked at Mayu, who was hiding outside the door. Don't hide, I found you long ago. Wu Ming had surveillance of every corner of the Shuayu mansion. Even a fly could be found accurately. Of course, that was if the fly could enter. Brother Wu Ming. Mayu walked in a little embarrassed. At this moment, Mayu's clothes had changed drastically. Mayu held a sapphire wand in her hand. She was wearing a light blue-purple outfit, like a primary school student's swimsuit. She wore knee-high boots on her legs and a black feathery skirt on her waist. A small white cape extended from her back. She looked like a little elf. Not bad, Mayu. It suits you very well. Wu Ming said with a smile. No. Brother Wu Ming, don't make fun of me. Mayu said with a red face. Why would I? Wu Ming walked in front of Mayu and squatted down. Why would a brother make fun of a sister? Wu Ming looked firmly into Mayu's eyes and said, Have you decided? Mayu's face was no longer red. She met Wu Ming's eyes. Then, Mayu's little head firmly nodded. Yes, I've decided, Brother Wu Ming. Wu Ming smiled. That's good. Mayu, you have to remember that no matter what you choose, I will always be your strong backing. Thank you, Brother Wu Ming. Mayu hugged Wu Ming and said gently. Wu Ming hugged Mayu with both hands and quietly enjoyed this moment of peace. Chapter 138. The next day, Wu Ming suggested that they go to the place where the cards were stored to retrieve them, but Sapphire objected. I think Lady Mayu should look for Lady Luvia. Lady Luvia is the Great Master's personal staff to retrieve the cards, so she's very familiar with them. However, Wu Ming said, I don't think that little girl can teach Mayu anything. In the end, Mayu decided to look for Luvia, whom she had never met before. After all, according to Sapphire, Luvia might still be looking for Sapphire at this moment. All right, then Mayu should go. Wu Ming looked as though he wanted to come back early. Brother Wu Ming isn't coming with me? Mayu was puzzled. Mayu. Wu Ming looked at Mayu seriously. It was rare for him to be so serious. Yes. Mayu looked at Wu Ming nervously. You should know that you're a magical girl now. You need to learn to be independent, so I won't help you this time. This is your own choice. Wu Ming said seriously. Yes. I understand, Brother Wu Ming. Mayu replied seriously. Then, Mayu left the house as though she was stepping onto a battlefield. As soon as Mayu left, Wu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. It's better if I don't show myself. Then, because he was still worried about Mayu, Wu Ming used an invisibility spell and quietly followed behind Mayu. Because she didn't find Sapphire, Luvia rested for a night and started looking for Sapphire again. Damn it! Sapphire's family, where did they go? Luvia said angrily. That, are you Luvia? Suddenly, a little girl's voice sounded in Luvia's ears. Luvia turned her head and saw a black-haired girl of about 10 years old standing not far away. That's right, I'm Luvia. Who are you, little sister? How do you know me? Luvia asked in an amiable manner. Wu Ming, who was following behind, saw this scene and the corner of his mouth twitched. As long as Rin Enosaka wasn't around, Luvia was always very elegant. Lady Luvia. Sapphire appeared behind Mayu and bowed to Luvia. So you're here. Sapphire, hurry up and come back with me. Luvia said angrily, as if she had just seen a worried child. I'm very sorry, Madame Luvia. My current master is Mayu. Sapphire said politely and pointed at Mayu like a human. As if she had accepted her fate, Luvia rubbed her forehead in distress and said, Really, Sapphire, how could you drag a normal person into this? Because Lady Luvia and Lady Ling both ignored the mission. This is something that can't be helped, Sapphire said calmly. Regarding the matter of retrieving the rank cards, I'm willing to do it. At this moment, Mayu's voice was heard. Rather than leaving it like this, it's better to give these rank cards to you. Mayu said with some pain. Oh, looks like you're not a normal person. Luvia squinted her eyes. I'll help you retrieve the rank cards, and you're not allowed to ask about me. How about it? Luvia looked at Mayu's clear eyes, thought for a moment, then nodded. That's the only way. Who told Sapphire to take you as her master? Wuming nodded with satisfaction. Then, Wuming left. Mayu and Luvia walked to a coffee shop and sat down. After all, even if they couldn't ask about Mayu's past, they should at least understand each other. However, Wuming wasn't interested in listening to their conversation. Moreover, it didn't matter even if the other party found out something. According to his usual habits, Wuming would go to Ilya's house to cook dinner. However, because of Mayu, Wuming sent a message to Ilya and the others saying that he wouldn't be going today. After Wuming returned home, he was busy in the kitchen. For Mayu, Wuming even made several servings of omelette rice. After a moment, the doorbell rang. Wuming sensed it and was a bit puzzled. Ilya? That's right, the people at the door were Ilya, Shiro, Sella, Lizette, and the others. Wuming went to open the door. Big brother, Ilya smiled sweetly. Why are you here? Wuming asked, puzzled. Shiro, Amiya, and Sella were a bit embarrassed, while Lizette still looked indifferent. Hey, big brother, didn't you say that your little sister is back? We wanted to celebrate. Ilya scratched her head in embarrassment. I think it's you guys who want to eat my cooking. Wuming teased. Everyone was embarrassed. Come in, I'm cooking. Wuming hurriedly stepped aside. Yes, everyone answered and walked into the Shuayu residence. In the kitchen, Wuming was busy. Because of today's special meeting, Wuming chose not to let anyone help him. Instead, he chose to do it himself. Ilya and the others were sitting in the living room and chatting. After a moment, Mayu returned to the Shuayu residence. I'm back, Mayu habitually shouted. You're back, Mayu. Wuming walked out of the kitchen. Ilya and the others stood up and looked at Mayu. Mayu, let me introduce you. This is Ilya. Wuming pointed at Ilya. For some reason, Mayu and Ilya looked at each other seriously. There was a special feeling between them. Then, Wuming started to introduce the others. Shiro, Amiya, Sella, and Lizette. When Shiro Amiya was introduced, Mayu's eyes flickered slightly. However, it quickly disappeared. Hello, I'm Shutsuki Mayu. It's our first time meeting, please take care of me. Mayu bowed politely. So elegant. To the casual Ilya, this was undoubtedly someone else's child. Alright, you guys go ahead and chat. Sherlang, come with me to serve the dishes. The dishes are almost ready. Yes, big brother. Soon, a large table of dishes was placed on the table. Looking at the sumptuous table, Ilya gasped in amazement. Wow, what a sumptuous meal. Big brother loves Mayu very much. Ilya looked at Mayu with a hint of envy. Mayu did not say anything. Instead, she looked at the omelette rice before her that was arranged in a heart shape. Brother Wuming, I'm very happy now. Mayu mumbled softly and smiled. Wuming and the others did not hear Mayu's words. Then, Wuming said, I didn't intend to cook so much. If you guys hadn't come, I would have only made enough for Mayu and me. Everyone started to eat heartily. By the way, Brother Wuming's house is so big. Aren't there any other servants? Sella was concerned about this. Perhaps it was because she was a nanny. Wuming put down his chopsticks and said, No. How should I put it? The Shuayu residence is built with special wood that can effectively reduce dust. Hence, there's no need to specially clean it. Is there such wood? Sella muttered to herself in confusion. Wuming hurriedly used suggestion magic to influence the others. However, after Ilya was affected, her body seemed to have a protective shield. Only a slight fluctuation appeared in her eyes. Soon, they finished their dinner. After sending Ilya and the others away, Wuming taught Mayu some basic knowledge of magic. Well, most of it was taught by Kalas. After all, Wuming did not understand such basic things. When it was almost midnight, Mayu said goodbye to Wuming and left the Shoyu residence. Be careful on the road. Wuming waved and watched Mayu leave. Wuming, who was still worried, used invisibility again and followed behind Mayu. Chapter 139. Mayu came to Suechuan Academy High School. After Mayu and Luvia met up, there was also a pair on the field of the high school. Wuming stood on a building in the Suechuan Academy High School and looked at Ilya and Rin Enben in the middle of the field. I see. Ilya has also become the new owner of the Starry Magic Staff. It suits this girl quite well. Wuming smiled. Wuming watched with interest as Ilya received the order to go to the toilet. With a flash of light in the toilet, Ilya walked out wearing a pink magical girl outfit. She was wearing a pink blouse and a mini skirt, pink and white boots, and a small cloak on her back that looked like a pair of small wings. Her hair was tied up with 2 bunny ears, and she held a red wand in her hand. Why did you go to the toilet to transform? Rin Enben, who was standing on the field, asked in confusion. Because I'm very shy, Ilya said weakly. How can that be, Ilya-chan? Magical girls are for people to look at. Magical aunties like Miss Rin will be teased. The magic staff in Ilya's hand made a frivolous sound. Wuming heard it with his extraordinary hearing. As expected, only this shameless Ruby would say that. What are you talking about? Ruby! Rin Enben was like an evil spirit. His eyes were red, and his back turned black as he looked at the ruby in Ilya's hand. Aya, let's get down to business. The ruby began to change the topic. Humph. If it wasn't for business today, you'd be in trouble. Rin Enben snorted coldly, then looked at Ilya. Get ready, Ilya. What? Ilya was confused. Instantly, a large magic circle appeared under Ilya and Rin Enben's feet. The magic circle kept spinning, complex and ever-changing, like a flower that kept blooming and withering. What is this? Ilya asked in a somewhat panicked manner. Don't worry, this is just a passage to the mirror world, Rin Enben explained. Passage? Ilya hugged the ruby and asked in confusion. Add imaginary number axis to the 5th variable, prepare for the reversal, multiple spaces confirmed, the central coordinate has been fixed. Form a reflection route with a radius of 2 meters, the realm corridor's partial reversal has begun. Next, we'll go to the world where the cards exist, Rin Enben said in an experienced tone. A world where cards exist? Ilya was even more puzzled. Yes, connected to an infinite number of mirrors. If this world is one of the mirror images, then this is the mirror world. That's the world where the rank cards are, the mirror world. To put it simply, it's the world inside the mirror. Rin Enosaka explained. In an instant, the scene before Ilya changed. The originally quiet and uninhabited campus became somewhat strange at this moment. There were still a lot of glass-like fragments floating in the sky. The coordinates are stable. The space movement is complete. Ruby, who was being hugged by Ilya, twisted her body rather humanly and said to Ilya, This is the mirror world? Ilya looked around in a daze. Ilya, they're coming! Rin Enben shouted. What's coming? Ilya said in a panic. Then, in the middle of the field, Ilya saw an extremely strange scene. In the middle of the field, a cluster of black mist condensed and formed a black sludge that resembled a black hole. An arm reached out from the black sludge, just like in a horror movie. What is this? Ilya was a bit scared. Don't be scared, Ilya. This is the heroic spirit of the rank card, Rin Enben said. A heroic spirit? What's that? As an elementary school student, Ilya didn't know about heroic spirits. They are heroes in human history. After they died, they became legendary existences, Rin Enben said. The power of the rank card is provided by heroic spirits. If you want to obtain the rank card, you must first defeat the heroic spirit's power within the rank card, which is the incarnation of the heroic spirit. Do we have to fight? Ilya was a bit confused. Of course. Didn't I tell you? Rin Enben said awkwardly. Of course not. Ilya was a bit hysterical. Let's not talk about this for now. It's coming. After hearing Rin Enben's words, Ilya looked toward the middle of the field. A woman with a good figure, wearing a black half-exposed leather jacket and a black eye mask, stood there. Ugh! A zombie-like sound came from the woman's body. She raised her head. The gem on the eye mask was like an eyeball, emitting a strange red light. So scary. Ilya was scared. After all, 2 days ago, Ilya was just an elementary school student. Even if it was a weakened version of a heroic spirit, it wasn't something an elementary school student could defeat. Do your best, Ilya. Ilya heard Rin Enben's encouragement, but this voice seemed to be a bit far away. Ilya helplessly looked at Rin Enben, who was hiding far away. Ilya! Get out of the way! Ruby shouted. Ilya subconsciously dodged to the side, and a short sword connected to a chain stabbed into her original spot. Attack, Ilya, Ruby said. What should I do? Ilya asked with a trembling voice. Imagine a powerful attack, Ruby said. Ilya was still a little scared. She closed her eyes and waved Ruby. A slash that tore through the atmosphere flew toward the dark servant. Boom! The sound of a hit was heard. Ilya opened her eyes and looked at it in disbelief. Oh, that's amazing, Ilya. You actually released a powerful slash. Is that so? Seems like it's effective, Ilya said weakly. Wuming stood on the roof of the mirror world. As soon as Ilya and Rin Enben entered the mirror world, Wuming followed closely behind. With his powerful strength and the Hero King's rank card, no one discovered Wuming's trace. Looking at the immature Ilya, who could even be said to be a complete novice, Wuming couldn't help but shake his head. Really, Ilya is still too inexperienced. It's too dangerous to let Ilya, who has no combat experience, participate, Wuming said. But it's about time. Wuming smiled. Because the opponent dodged the attack, Ilya began to use a reduced power scatter shot. Then the opponent began to use a noble artifact. Ilya, leave quickly, the opponent is about to use a noble artifact, Rin Enben shouted from behind. Just as Rin Enben stood in front of Ilya and activated a defensive magic, a petite figure walked out of the shadows. Rank card Lancer, including Gaybalg, piercing thorn spear. Chapter 140. Gaybalg. Mayu used the Sapphire and the Lancer class card to transform her scarlet spear into a spear and stabbed forward with all her might. The spear pierced through the Dark Follower's chest. The scarlet magic circle in front of the Dark Rider shattered and disappeared. The Dark Rider spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure slowly faded. After he disappeared, a card appeared in his place. Mayu picked up Rider's card, and the Gaybalg disappeared and turned into a sapphire staff. Beauty tour? Ilya said in surprise. Hello, Ilya, Mayu said calmly. Because they had met before and had been taught by Wuming, although Mayu didn't treat Ilya too coldly, their relationship could be considered to be very good. They were merely acquaintances. Ilya, is that someone you know? Rin Enben asked. Yes, she is Big Brother's sister. I have been to Big Brother's house and met his sister. Ilya was hesitant, but she still told Rin Enben. Oh, suddenly, a strange laughter was heard. Rin Enben instantly gritted his teeth and said, This voice is Luvia. Rin Enben looked in the direction of the voice. Luvia walked over very elegantly and looked at Rin Enben proudly. How is it, Rin Enben, this time I won first place? Then, Luvia looked at Mayu. Thank you for your hard work, Mayu. Mayu silently handed the class card to Luvia. What a pity, Rin Enben, I will accept this card. Oh, don't be so proud. Rin Enben suddenly rushed over and punched Luvia's face. Luvia was sent flying to the ground. Ilya and Mayu looked at this scene and didn't know what to do. Since you saw it, you should have come to help earlier, you bastard. Rin Enben clenched his fist and stared at Luvia. Rubbing her face in pain, Luvia crawled up and said, You bastard! To actually do such a thing to a lady's face, I really hate barbarians like you the most. Cut the crap. Isn't that a sneak attack? As they quarreled, the two of them wrestled with each other. Aw, looks like it's developing into something like this, Ruby said helplessly. Speaking of which, what's going on? Ilya's shoulders drooped as she said weakly. At this moment, the mirror world suddenly began to shake. What's wrong? Ilya asked. Because the card was recycled, the mirror world began to collapse, Ruby explained. Then let's hurry back. Ilya was starting to panic. Not bad. It seems Wrath's attacks have become even more exquisite. Luvia panted heavily as she spoke, cutting a sorry figure. As long as I know your attack path, then I can definitely dodge it. Rin Enben was also panting heavily, and his face was haggard. Looks like it's not going to work. They're already using body language. Looking at the two of them who were still wrestling with each other, and Ruby who was replying calmly, Ilya was confused. How can you two still chat so calmly? At this moment, Mayu walked to the center of the three of them. Sapphire, Mayu said. Yes, master, Sapphire replied. At the same time, just like before they entered, a large magic circle appeared under their feet. However, unlike Ruby's magic circle, Sapphire's magic circle was bluish-purple. Delete the imaginary axis from the measurement variable, fix the center coordinate, set the radius to 6 meters, form a reflection path, return to the normal world. Instantly, light enveloped everyone, and then Ilya, Mayu, and the others disappeared. Wuming watched them disappear and said, Then let's go, Kalas. Yes, master. Reality. Show you residence. Wuming was sitting in the courtyard, waiting for Mayu's return. After a while, Mayu walked into Shoyu residence. I'm back, brother Wuming, Mayu said. Welcome back. How was it, Mayu? Are you all right? Wuming smiled warmly. I'm fine, don't worry, brother Wuming. Then, Mayu seemed to want to say something but stopped. Wuming naturally noticed Mayu's abnormality. Do you have anything else to ask, Mayu? Wuming stroked Mayu's head and said warmly. Brother Wuming, what does he think of Ilya? Mayu asked. Wuming, who was secretly following Mayu, naturally knew why Mayu asked that. Then, he said, Oh, Ilya. She's just an ordinary elementary school student. Is that so? Mayu lowered her head and pondered. Oh, right. Do you want to go to school, Mayu? The next day, Ilya leaned on the table weakly. I'm so sleepy. At this time, the homeroom teacher, Daigu Fujimura, walked in. Hello, everyone. Although it's a little sudden, a new student transferred in today. Please come in. When he finished speaking, Mayu walked to the podium wearing Suechu Hara Academy's elementary school uniform and holding her handbag. I'm Shitsuki Mayu. Please take care of me. Mayu bowed. Oh, so cute, how polite. Yes. Many people started discussing. Ilya raised her head in disbelief and looked at Mayu. What? Daikawa Fujimura wrote Mayu's name on the blackboard. Then, he turned around and slapped the table. Mayu just came back from abroad. There are many things that she doesn't understand. You have to take care of her. Yes, the children said in unison. Let me see. Mayu, you can sit behind Ilya. Yes, sensei. Mayu walked to the table behind Ilya and sat down. Ilya, who was originally very sleepy, was now very careful as if she was sitting on pins and needles. After a while, because Daikawa Fujimura forgot to take the photocopied teaching materials, this lesson was temporarily self-study. Ilya found an excuse and left the classroom. Ilya sighed. Oh, what an old-fashioned plot. Ruby came out of Ilya's hair and stood on Ilya's shoulder. Ruby put away her staff, leaving only 3 pairs of small wings with curved edges. Yeah, a mysterious transfer student has appeared, Ilya said weakly. This is something that often appears in magical girl stories. A rather polite and clear voice sounded. Ilya turned around and saw that it was the magic staff that Mayu was holding last night. At this moment, just like Ruby, she put away the staff, leaving only the curved edges of the staff with a bow on it. Ah, isn't this Xiaolan? Ruby greeted her enthusiastically. We haven't seen each other for an entire night, sister. Sister? Ilya exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 141. On the rooftop of the Sui Kun Yuan Academy Primary School, Ilya, Ruby, and Sapphire walked there. What's the matter with sister? Ilya asked. It's like this. Little Blue and I were made at the same time. Ruby said. I'm Sapphire. Nice to meet you, please take care of my sister. Sapphire bowed like a human. Don't mention it, please take care of me. I'm Ilya. Ilya quickly returned a salute. She's so polite, Ilya thought. Little Blue, who are you? Ruby asked. Yes, my new master is Mayu-sama. Speaking of which, if it weren't for Wuming-sama, I might not have been able to conclude a contract with Mayu-sama. Hey, is it related to Big Brother? Ilya asked. Yes, after separating from my sister, I was looking for a fated person everywhere. As a result, I found the magic aura left behind by Mayu-sama. Then, I followed it all the way and came to Wuming-sama's house. Ilya and the Ruby listened attentively. Wuming-sama's house is a very powerful magic workshop. It would take a long time for me to break the enchantment outside. It was because of Wuming-sama's permission that I entered Shoyu's house. After discussing with Mayu-sama, I signed a contract. If that's the case, Big Brother is also a magician, Ilya said with a look of realization. Well, Wuming-sama's magic is quite powerful. I even thought that Mr. Wuming was a servant. When she first saw Wuming, Sapphire was also shocked. Because Wuming didn't deliberately hide his magic and aura, Sapphire easily noticed Wuming's huge magic. In fact, Sapphire wasn't wrong. After Wuming was transformed into a class card, he automatically condensed into a physical body and continued to rely on his own magic. Although he was not the same as a servant, there was no difference. But there was one thing, and that was Wuming had become stronger. That was because the servant was slightly different from the heroic spirits in the class card. Servants would be strengthened or weakened by their own class, master's magic power, region, and other aspects. However, the class card stored the power of the heroic spirit. Although it was also limited by the class and the reputation of the region, it was not affected by the master's magic power. In other words, Wuming, who relied solely on his massive mana, received the greatest boost in all his attribute. Of course, Wuming was just an accident. After all, rank cards were originally provided for human magicians. If they were used by human magicians, all kinds of restrictions would reappear. Even if a class card materialized, it would be an empty shell without consciousness. It would only instinctively attack pure magic blocks in its own territory, absorbing the existence of the underground spirit veins. By the way, is Ilya's big brother the one you went to that night? Ruby asked. Because it was a family freeloading dinner, Ilya did not bring Ruby with her but left her at home. Well, Big Brother's family is very big, just like a noble. Ilya nodded with a different look in her eyes. Hey, I really want to see the big brother that made Ilya infatuated, Ruby began to tease again. What? Of course not. Ilya bashfully patted the ruby, while the ruby nimbly dodged. Ha ha ha, by the way, Little Blue's master, Mayu, is really strong. She can even use the class cards restriction, include. Ruby quickly changed the topic. Yes, I was also very surprised at that time. I didn't expect Mayu, Sama's talent to be so high. Well, if she has such a powerful magician brother, it's normal to have such a high talent. But she really deserves to be called Little Blue. She can actually find such a great master, Ruby said so. Using this excuse could also be considered as comforting Ilya. After all, Ilya's performance yesterday was truly too weak. I'm sorry that I'm not such a great master. By the way, what's that restriction, include, that you guys were talking about? Ilya shrugged, then raised her doubts. Did Big Sister not explain it to Lord Ilya? Sapphire asked with a confused and surprised voice. I forgot. Then, Sapphire told her about the class card. So that's the case. Ilya seemed to have understood something important, and her face was filled with satisfaction. A legendary hero, huh? He seems so powerful. Ilya smiled. Due to some unknown reason, the class cards didn't appear at the same time. After 2 class cards appeared, the Magic Association sent a magician to retrieve those 2 cards. Sapphire continued. Wuming and Zelik had also discussed this problem. It seemed that because of Wuming's unusual class card, it caused the class cards and Mayo's appearance to be chaotic. The class cards are created from extremely advanced magic theories. The Magic Association can only create a restriction, include, for the time being. That's because the Great Master, the person who created me and Big Sister, intervened and changed it to Lord Luvia and Lord Ling. As for us, because the 2 of them didn't cooperate, we left them and went to find our own masters. Really, just a pair of ponytails at an older age is equivalent to a magical girl, Ruby mocked in the end. Then, how many class cards have you collected now? Ilya asked. We've already retrieved Archer, Lancer, and the Rider class card that Mayu Sama defeated yesterday. We have a total of 3 class cards. Sapphire said. Ilya, do you still remember the Archer that Ling showed you? That's a class card. Ruby said. Ilya recalled the card that Ling and Osaka showed her that day. I see. Mayu Sama used the Lancer class card, the famous weapon of Cuchulain, the Son of Light in Celtic mythology. It's a magic spear that can definitely hit the heart. Sapphire said. That dangerous? Ilya was surprised. Of course. After all, this is a weapon used by legendary heroes, Ruby interjected while floating in the air. At that moment, a voice sounded. Sapphire. Ilya turned to look at the rooftop entrance. Mayu was standing there in her school uniform. Don't run around. I'm worried. Mayu said. Because Mayu had been taken care of by Wuming's exclusive magic attire, Emerald, Mayu was very concerned about Sapphire. I'm sorry, Mayu-sama. Sapphire hurriedly flew over. At that moment, Mayu looked at Ilya, and Ilya looked at Mayu. Both sides fell into silence. Chapter 142. Hello, I'm Ilya, Ilya said shyly. Yes, I'm Mayu. Then, as the school bell rang, the 2 hurriedly left the rooftop. Then, Mayu showed genius-like talent in mathematics, art, home economics, sports, and other aspects. This shocked the group of primary school students and teachers, and even the homeroom teacher, Daikawa Fujimura, went crazy. In the evening, Ilya sat on a small chair in the park with a defeated expression. I say, it's about time. Do you need to keep being so depressed? Ruby said. Sai, you're right. It's not a big deal. I just didn't expect geniuses to really exist. Ilya sighed and said. Then, Ilya got up and was about to leave. Just as she turned her head, she saw Mayu passing by the park and Wuming who came to pick her up. Big Brother and Mayu. Ilya was a little nervous. Yo Ilya, why are you alone in the park? Wuming greeted Ilya. Mayu nodded at Ilya and did not say anything. It's nothing. I'm going home now. Ilya touched her head with a blush. She could not say that she was sitting here to relax because of the blow. Then, do you want me to send you home? Wuming said gently. Then I'll have to trouble you, brother Wuming. Ilya smiled shyly. Then, Wuming held Mayo's hand and walked on the road with Ilya beside him. As if she could not bear it any more, Ilya spoke. Big brother, are you also a magician? Ilya asked carefully. Wuming smiled at this. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Ilya to be related to magic, so I didn't tell you my identity back then. Wuming's apology made Ilya even more embarrassed. She hurriedly waved her hand. No, I'm the one who's sorry for prying into other people's privacy. Ruby, who couldn't bear to watch any longer, patted Ilya's head and said resentfully. Why are you apologizing? Ilya blushed and didn't know what to say. Ha, it's okay, Ilya. Inquiring about such things in the magic world isn't considered invading one's privacy. You can barely be considered half a magician now. Wuming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Why is it half? Ilya asked in confusion. That's because Ilya is a magical girl. How could she be a magician? Ruby cheered. Shut up. Ilya angrily grabbed the ruby and stuffed it into her school bag. She then looked at Wuming with a red face. Wuming continued, the reason why I said that Ilya is half a magician is because Ilya has just come into contact with magic. There are many things that she doesn't understand. Ilya nodded her little head. She didn't even know about heroic spirits yesterday. If Sapphire didn't explain it to her today, Ilya might not even know about it now. To be honest, it's best for Ilya to be a magical girl. Wuming's tone began to change. How should she say it? In short, it gave Ilya a feeling of joy. How should I say it, Ilya? It's best for you to leave the magic world after you finish reclaiming your rank cards. Then, you can peacefully be a primary school student. After all, the magic world has darkness that you can't imagine, Wuming said earnestly. Just as Ilya was stunned by Wuming's words, Wuming's tone changed. Well, however, even if you continue to choose this path, I will still protect you. Wuming's tone was unusually gentle as he stroked Ilya's head. These gentle words and gentle strokes caused Ilya's face to turn red. She looked at Wuming foolishly as if she had fallen into some fantasy. What's wrong, Ilya? Are you all right? Wuming pinched Ilya's little face and asked worriedly. No, I'm fine. Ilya quickly reacted. Her face was red as she waved her hands frantically. We should hurry up and leave. Sarah will be worried, Ilya said. Then, Ilya strode in front. After sending Ilya home, Wuming held Mayo's hand and walked on the road. Does brother Wuming like Ilya fair? Mayu suddenly asked. Why do you ask? Wuming looked at Mayu and asked in confusion. Because brother Wuming is very concerned about Ilya fair. Mayu was silent for a while before speaking. Wuming smiled and stroked Mayo's head. Our Mayu can't be envious, right? Mayo's face turned red. She shook her head and said, I'm not. However, no matter how one looked at it, she seemed a little arrogant. That's because Ilya gives me a feeling like Mayu, Wuming said seriously. This time, Mayu was confused. My feeling? Looking at the familiar surroundings, Wuming nodded at Mayu. That's right, Mayu. Ilya gives me a feeling like you. Both are holy grails. Mayu's eyes focused. Wuming continued, I once sensed a strange magic power in Ilya's body. I secretly checked Ilya's body and found that there was a seal deep in Ilya's body. Wuming walked to the door of Shoyu's residence, pushed open the door, and walked in with Mayu. Because I once thought of sealing your holy grail physique, I studied this seal. Wuming sat on the stone bench in the courtyard and let Mayu sit beside him. So, it's not that there's no Holy Grail war in this world, but that someone stopped the Holy Grail war from happening. So, Brother Wuming is concerned about Ilya Fair out of sympathy? Meiyu said. How can that be? Wuming shook his head with a smile. That's because Ilya is also a cute child. I like children the most. Just like how I like you, Meiyu. It's not because you're holy grails that I care about you, but because I simply like humans like you cute children. Then, Wuming walked to Meiyu and squatted down. So, I didn't choose to take care of you out of sympathy or other reasons, but because we met. Wuming stroked Meiyu's head and looked at her eyes that were the same color as his. It's because of such a simple geographical reason that you became my sister and my beloved. Although Wuming's words made Meiyu blush, Meiyu still listened to Wuming very seriously. How about maintaining a good relationship with Ilya? Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Meiyu blushed and nodded. Okay, I'm going to cook. What does Meiyu want to eat? Wuming stood up and said. Omelette rice. Meiyu said in a low voice. Then make a deluxe special version. Meiyu looked at Wuming's back and smiled in a daze. Brother Wuming. Chapter 143. After dinner, Meiyu, dressed in a blue-purple magical girl outfit, went to Wuming, who was admiring the moon. Are you going, Meiyu? Wuming said with his eyes closed while drinking a cup of tea. Although Meiyu was a little curious why Brother Wuming closed his eyes while admiring the moon, Meiyu nodded. Well, Sister Luvia said that we will meet near the Winterwood City Bridge tonight. Well, be careful, that class card is a bit tricky. Wuming opened his eyes and looked at Meiyu. Well, I know, Brother Wuming. Meiyu left the Shuasuki house, and Wuming, who was sitting on the edge of the house, stood up. Are you worried about Miss Meiyu, Master? Kalas Balit on Wuming's head said. Well, that's for sure. You know, now the two mirror realms near the Winterwood City Bridge have been merged, and one of them is a caster class card. Now, Castor should have built a magic workshop. Although not everyone's magic workshop was as crazy as Wuming's magic workshop, he was still able to betray the witch of a Kanzaki. Just the fact that he was a Kanzaki character was something that couldn't be ignored. Kalas still doesn't understand why you want to put the caster class card back in place. Even if it's for training, I don't think Miss Meiyu and Miss Ilya have the strength to defeat the other side. Golden Green's dragon horn glowed, and it kept making sounds. Because of this, I have to ensure their safety, and I have to do it without the other side knowing. Wuming walked out of the Shuasuki house, set up a magic barrier, and headed toward the Winterwood City Bridge. You know, I can't stay in this world all the time. I'll let them get some growth so that I can rest assured. Kalas didn't speak, but Kalas always felt that Wuming said to let Meiyu grow, but in fact, he was more flustered than anyone else. Master, there seems to be a professional term for what you said. I remember it's called tsundere. Wuming, who was walking on the road, slipped and almost fell. Wuming stabilized his body and stroked the dragon horn headdress. This information is wrong, delete it. Yes, Master. Winterwood City Bridge, Rin Enbin and Luvia stood somewhere, waiting for the arrival of Ilya and Meiyu. A pink figure came over. Big Sister Ling, Big Sister Luvia. Ilya came over and greeted the two. You're here, Ilya, Rin Enbin replied. That's strange, why is Meiyu late? You should know that Meiyu is very punctual. Luvia, who had more or less understood Meiyu after interacting with her, was a little worried. At this moment, a petite figure came over. Sorry, I'm late, Meiyu said while panting. Because she wanted to spend more time with her brother, Meiyu realized that there wasn't enough time, so she hurried over. It's fine, it's not time yet. Luvia looked at the time and said to Meiyu. Don't be careless, Ilya. Be on guard against both the enemy and Luvia. Rin Enbin said to Luvia. Ilya had a helpless expression. I really hope that you won't provoke us when you quarrel, Ruby said. Meiyu, hurry up and deal with it. Remember to involve Rin Enbin while dealing with the enemy, Luvia said elegantly. Apart from the latter half, I understand the rest, Mayu said helplessly. Then, I think we should hurry up and retrieve the 4th class card, Rinenbin said as he looked at Ilya and Ruby. Mayu. Luvia also looked at Mayu and Sapphire. Yes, I understand. Okay. As Ruby and Sapphire chanted an incantation, a magic circle appeared under their feet again. Connect. Following Ilya and Mio's final words, they instantly disappeared from where they stood. Wuming came here and sensed the remnants of magic in the air. You've already entered? Then let's go in, Kalas. Yes, master. Remember to use the invisibility spell, don't let them see me. Yes, master. With a flash of light, Wu Ming also disappeared from where he was. About a dozen seconds later, Ilya, Mayu, and the others who had disappeared earlier reappeared on the spot. They all looked battered and exhausted. It hurts, and it's so hot. What is that? Ilya said in shock. It's really bad. We seem to have encountered Castor, who has been prepared for a long time. Luvia wiped her face with a handkerchief and said, Castor? A magician? Ilya sighed. Yes, there is no doubt that the opponent is a powerful magician. Ruby also sighed. According to the magic circle and incantation used by the opponent, it can be determined that it is not any kind of magic that exists in modern times. It can be determined that the opponent is using the long-lost kamikaze magic. Sapphire analyzed. That's not the worst. The main thing is that there is a large range of mana pointing control platform around Castor, so our attacks can't hit her. Rin Enbin pinched his chin and said in distress. I wanted to ask just now, what is that mana pointing control platform? This kind of new term was somewhat unfamiliar to Ilya, who had just stepped into the world of magicians. That is a defensive platform that can direct the flow of magic. Generally speaking, this kind of control platform is placed in a special place. I didn't expect that the opponent can make such a large piece. Rin Enbin said. According to our judgment, the opponent's mana-pointing control platform can only defend downward, that is to say, as long as we fly into the air, we can attack her. Sapphire said. But this made Rin Enbin and Luvia somewhat distressed. But it is really difficult to let Ilya and Mayu suddenly learn flying magic that they have never learned before. Is that so? Ilya's voice came from behind the two. They saw Ilya floating in the air, looking at the two with some excitement. What's going on? Ilya, how did you suddenly learn how to fly? Rin Enbin said. Amazing. Ilya, you actually learned a difficult flying magic in an instant. Ruby said happily. Hey. Don't magical girls know how to fly? Ilya tilted her head and said innocently. Rin Enosaka, on the other hand, was shocked by Ilya's words. Damn it, Mayu, you also fly immediately. Luvia said, not to be outdone. After a moment of silence, Mayu said such a sentence. Humans can't fly. Just like Tu was shocked, Luvia was also shocked. Wuming, who had quietly come out, hid behind a tree and looked helplessly at the calm Mayu. As expected of Mayu, you actually think the same as me. Wuming smiled awkwardly. Chapter 144. In the middle of the night, Mayu returned to the Shuayu residence. Did something happen, Mayu? Wuming stood at the door and said to Mayu, who was in a sorry state. Mayu nodded, looking a little depressed. Wuming walked to Mayu, touched her head and said, It's okay, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, Big Brother will help you solve them. Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Mayu also recovered some of her spirit, and then said, Brother Wuming, can you teach me how to fly? Of course, how about this, tomorrow morning, I'll take you to learn how to fly, how about it? Out of trust in her brother, Mayu quickly nodded. After Mayu took a bath, because Wuming saw Mayu's disappointment, under Wuming's care, Mayu fell asleep. Wuming left the room and gently closed the door. Are you really going to teach Miss Mayu how to fly, master? Kalas complained. After all, although Wu-Ming's talent is high, after all, the magic that Wu-Ming knows is some high-level magic. Thinking back to when Wu-Ming taught Gilgamesh, he guided and taught him, letting him awaken magic abilities on his own. It's not that he was unwilling to give the original 18 Lune to Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh refused at that time. Wu-Ming's face turned red and he coughed awkwardly, then said, "Ahem, there are many ways to let Mayu fly, but now is a good time to train Mayu. After all, Mayu can be said to be a genius no matter what she does." "Are you saying that because Miss Mayu lost to Miss Ilya in flying magic, so she suffered a blow?" Collis asked. Wu-Ming walked to the bedroom, pushed the door open, and continued, "It's not considered a blow. After all, Mayu is a strong child. She just can't find a clue now and is confused. Mayu's strength is not like that of an ordinary little girl. Although Wu-Ming's teaching in the past 5 years is also crucial, Mayu's strong character is cultivated by herself. In order not to drag my brothers down. This is what Mayu once said. How should I say it? Mayu is a little too much of a believer in science, causing some magic that requires imagination to be unable to be implemented. Just like flying, if a person subconsciously feels that they can't fly, then no matter what, they can't succeed." "Then what do you mean?" Collis asked. "Let Mayu change to a way that she can accept. Anyway, Mayu's purpose is just to stay in the air." "I see." Wu-Ming lay down and put Collis on the table. "Actually, Collis, you don't have to compliment me in disguise." Collis did not speak. "I don't believe that the purely auxiliary magic gift made by Gem Wold Zelik doesn't have extraordinary wisdom." Wu-Ming smiled. "Don't think that I'm quite smart usually, in fact, I'm very afraid of using my brain. I know, although I said that I treat you as family, you must not be able to let it go." Collis was silent. Suddenly being told that you have a fixed master, suddenly being told that you can't change your master, suddenly being told that you must obey your master's orders, suddenly being told that your freedom is forever limited. Wu-Ming's tone began to become heavy. "That must be quite painful." Collis continued to be silent. "So, if you can, please treat me as a real family, okay, Collis?" Wu-Ming's tone changed and said tenderly, "I know, master," Collis replied. "Then, I'll trouble you a lot in the future, Collis." "Yes." Collis's voice contained unprecedented emotion. If Collis was only loyal to her master like a counselor before, then now she was treating him like family. If there was a gap between Wu-Ming and Collis before, then there was no gap between Collis and Wu-Ming now, just like Wu-Ming and Mayu. It was both warm and comforting. After Wu-Ming fell asleep, the golden dragon horn shone with a different light. Is this the feeling of love? The next day, both Wu-Ming and Mayu woke up early. After eating the breakfast prepared by Wu-Ming, Wu-Ming brought Mayu to a barren land on Yuanzhong Mountain through a portal. "Let's do it here, Mayu." Wu-Ming took a few steps forward and said, "Okay." At this moment, Mayu had already changed into a magical girl's clothes. For some reason, Mayu was unwilling to transform in front of Wu-Ming, just like how Ilya did not want to transform in front of others. It was just that Mayu was targeting Wu-Ming alone. Then, Wu-Ming tossed a pendant necklace to Mayu. It was a pendant with a single feather in the shape of a pendant. "Brother Wu-Ming, what's this?" Mayu looked at Wu-Ming in confusion. Wu-Ming said, "This is a magic tool that allows the wearer to fly. As long as the incantation is chanted, the necklace will allow the wearer to fly for an unlimited amount of time." "Unlimited?" Mayu was shocked. "I'm afraid this tool can only be created with a magical domain." Mayu grabbed Sapphire and analyzed. "The point is, as long as you wear this necklace, Mayu, you don't need to learn to fly." These words made Mayu and Sapphire stunned, but Mayu reacted and shook her head. Then she said, "I don't want to rely on these external forces, I want to learn to fly by myself." Looking at Mayu's firm eyes, Wu-Ming smiled. "I knew you would say that." Then, Wu-Ming began to teach. Mayu, first of all, you have to know what your ultimate goal is. Wuming rarely showed a serious face and looked at Mayu seriously. The ultimate goal is to defeat Castor and recover the rank card, Mayu said. Wuming nodded and continued to ask, why do you want to learn to fly? That's because you can't attack Castor without flying to a high altitude, Mayu said. So, why do you have to learn to fly? Wuming smiled, and his rare serious face was broken. Hey! Wuming's words made Mayu stunned, and then she thought of something, and her face turned red. Brother Wuming, thank you very much. Mayu bowed excitedly. Wuming knocked Mayu's little head and smiled. Little fool, we are a family, you don't need to thank me. Mayu smiled shyly. Then Wuming said, so, you should know how to practice. Well, Brother Wuming has helped me a lot, I already know how to achieve the goal of defeating Castor. Mayu nodded. Then I'll go first, come on Mayu. Wuming said and opened the portal. Well, Brother Wuming, goodbye. Mayu said goodbye to Wuming with a rosy face. I'm really looking forward to it, Mayu. Chapter 145. The next day at night. Ilya, Mayu, Rin Enben, and Luvia stood together near the Winter Wood City Bridge. Then, only for today, let's temporarily join forces. Rin Enben said. Oh, although I don't want to admit it, you monkey can really help a little. Luvia said. The two once again confronted each other. Regarding the argument between the two, Ilya and others expressed that they were not interested. Great, Mayu, we can fight together, Ilya said to Mayu. Yeah. Mayu's face was red, and she was a little embarrassed. Yesterday, after Wuming left, when Mayu was practicing her method, Ilya appeared nearby. Wuming didn't know what happened between the two, but Mayu was very happy when she came home yesterday. Let's start. With Rin Enben and Luvia's orders, Ruby and Sapphire jointly launched the magic circle. The red and blue magic circle reflected each other, and the speed was much faster than before. When they escaped from Castor's mirror world, Ruby and Sapphire also jointly cast the magic circle. Otherwise, with the speed of their magic circle, they would have been intercepted by Castor. They disappeared in an instant. Wuming appeared again and looked at the scene of Mayu and Ilya just now. It seems that Mayu and Ilya's relationship is good. It should be like this. Mayu is very lacking in friendship. Wuming said lightly. So, do you still want to enter the mirror world, Master? Collis asked, but she didn't move at all. Don't you know? Why are you still asking me? Wuming laughed. Knowing is knowing, you are still my master after all, etiquette cannot be neglected. Collis said, and then the golden-green dragon horn moved. Collis, who had untied the knot in her heart, had become the same as Ruby, Sapphire, and other similar creatures. She no longer stubbornly maintained her previous shape, and began to change her shape automatically. Let's go, although I believe that Mayu and the others can overcome Castor Medea. This is the mirror world, that is the fusion of two cards. Yes. Subsequently, light flashed beneath Wuming's feet as a magic array appeared and enveloped Wuming. Inside Castor's mirror world, Mayu and Ilya flew into the air, and kept rushing toward Castor's position in the air. Rin, Enosaka and Luvia, who stayed on the ground, could only watch helplessly. After all, not to mention whether their attacks could reach Castor's position or not, their magic might not work on Castor. In the air, Ilya looked at Mayu curiously. After all, Mayu was still unable to fly yesterday. She could only rely on magic to compress the pressure in the air to form a temporary stable platform for her to jump, move, and so on. But in Ilya's eyes, Mayu didn't rely on these methods at the moment, but she was really flying. After dodging a magic cannon, Ilya, who was still in a daze, quickly cleared her mind and began to focus on the situation in front of her. Mayu constantly dodged the magic cannons made by Castor and rushed toward Castor's position. Mayu looked at the necklace hanging on her neck, and remembered what Wu Ming said to Meiyu last night when he entrusted the necklace to her. After Meiyu came back from the exercise, Meiyu rested for a while, and Wu Ming handed it over. Meiyu, take this. Wu Ming took the single-piece wing-shaped pendant necklace and looked at Meiyu. Brother Wu Ming, what is this? Meiyu tilted her head and asked puzzledly. Wu Ming placed the necklace in Meiyu's hand and said, Tomorrow, we'll have to fight with our lives on the line, so it's best to ensure that we can fly safely. This necklace is only a temporary loan to you, so remember to return it. Meiyu had already put it on when she came to the Winterwood City Bridge. After all, this was brother's blessing. Meiyu held the necklace tightly, and then rushed toward Castor even harder. Because the plan was for Ilya to attack and harass Meiyu, Ilya was very close to Castor at the moment. Looking for the right time, Ilya held the ruby and began to gather magic. Scatter bullets, fire. With Ilya's clear voice, a large number of pink magic bullets were fired from the top of the ruby. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Meiyu, who was close to Castor, took out Lancer's rank card. Rank card Lancer. Meiyu, who was about to use Lancer's rank card, found that Castor suddenly disappeared in front of her. Teleportation? Then, Meiyu quickly activated the defense facility. Sapphire, convert all magic into physical protection and magic barrier. Yes, Master. At the moment when Sapphire completed the defense, as if there was a delay, a huge magic bullet hit Meiyu, and Meiyu fell on the Winterwood City Bridge in the Mirror World, forming a lot of smoke. Meiyu, Ilya, Rin Enbin, Luvia, and the others were shocked. I was really careless. As expected of the Witch of Kanagami, teleportation is nothing. Ruby was distressed. Then, Meiyu walked out of the smoke. Meiyu's body was not damaged at all. Her body exuded a little light, which was a sign that the defense facility was activated. Looking at the unscathed Meiyu, Ilya and the others were relieved, and then Ilya rushed up again, acting as a bait. Meiyu, on the other hand, was glad that he remembered what Wu Ming said yesterday. Meiyu, you have to remember, the opponent is a magician of Kanagami. She may have super high-level magic like teleportation, so you must be very careful. Wu Ming was worried that Meiyu would underestimate the enemy. Although it was a little strange why there was a delay, Meiyu didn't have time to think about it. Looking at Ilya, who was still trying to harass Meiyu, Meiyu shook her head and quickly joined the battlefield. Wu Ming, who was in the shadow, sighed. As expected of Meiyu, she reacted in an instant. Collis complained. Isn't it because you used magic to interfere with Castor's casting speed? Wu Ming smiled awkwardly and then said, Even without me, Meiyu will be fine. Wu Ming was right. Even without Wu Ming's interference, even if the magic cannon hit Meiyu, it would not cause any damage to Meiyu, who had already activated her defense. The interference was just a subconscious behavior of Wu Ming because he was worried about Meiyu. In order to create the conditions for Meiyu, Ilya poured her fantasy power into the ruby and launched a large AoE scattershot attack. Taking advantage of the moment when Castor was delayed, Meiyu immediately released the long-prepared bombardment. Maximum bombardment. Fire. A huge beam of light went straight to the ground. Several people were relieved in an instant. Just when several people were about to recover Castor's rank card, Castor, who they thought had been defeated, reappeared in the distant sky. Chapter 146. Looking at the somewhat embarrassed Castor, everyone panicked. Could it be? Did he use spatial teleportation to escape? Rin Enbin exclaimed in shock. Judging from the level of the magic array, the mirror world would definitely be destroyed. When Meiyu saw that, she immediately rushed toward Castor. Wait! Meiyu, come back quickly! Luvia shouted. At this moment, Castor was too far away from them. Even Meiyu, who was the closest to them, couldn't reach Castor before he released the magic array. Damn it, it's too late, Meiyu said through gritted teeth. Meiyu, stand on top. Suddenly, Ilya's voice came from behind. Mayu turned around and saw a huge pink magic ball. Mayu instantly understood Ilya's intention. The instant the mana ball arrived behind her, Mayu used her mana to create a platform and stood on it. The force of the magic ball pushed Mayu toward Castor. Rank card Lancer. Mio held the sapphire in one hand and the rank card in the other hand, and said while combining the two, "Gay Bog." The scarlet spear penetrated the magic circle and penetrated Castor's chest. Mayu stood not far behind Castor and put away her spear. The three gigantic magic arrays collapsed, transforming into motes of mana that disappeared. Castor also turned into a Castor class card. Mayu picked up the fallen class card. Sapphire said, "Class card Castor, recycling successful. Thank you for your hard work, Lady Mayu." Sapphire said with concern, "Yes." Mayu didn't say much and simply nodded. Then, Mayu looked at Ilya, who was flying toward her. "Alicia Field is truly a miraculous person. I've never thought that I could use a magic ball to increase my speed. Mayu-sama, I think you and Lady Ilya are very compatible. You should contact Lady Ilya more. After all, the two of you are one." Sapphire said. Mayu nodded as if she agreed. At that moment, Rin Enbin and Luvia, who were quarreling again, stopped. "That's strange. Why hasn't the mirror world collapsed after so long?" Rin Enbin asked. Luvia also nodded, and then they looked at each other as if they thought of something. Could it be? Ta, ta, ta. There was a sound of steel touching the ground. Somewhere close to Rin Tasaka and Luvia, a servant wrapped in black mana mist walked over. The black mist made it hard to see her face, but the magic sword in her hand was clearly reflected in the eyes of Rin Enbin and Luvia. There was no doubt that it was the materialization of Saber's class card. Without any hesitation, Saber raised the sword that had accompanied her for her entire life in a fluid motion. A large amount of magic gathered, and then Saber swung her sword, and a powerful black magic shockwave shot toward Rin Enbin and Luvia. Damn it! It's too late. Just when the two of them were in despair, a white mist appeared and offset the black magic shockwave. Heaven Age, resist God. Following the activation of the relic, the white mist rushed towards Saber. Saber quickly blocked with her sword, and the white mist turned into a dragon claw and hit it hard. Boom! Saber was repelled, and then Wooming appeared from the white mist. Looking at the man with blonde hair and a white robe, the two of them asked, "Who are you?" Rin Enbin and Luvia asked. After all, they didn't know Wooming. "Zelik told you about me, right?" Wooming turned his head and looked at the two of them with his golden pupils and said. The two of them quickly reacted. "Are you the hero spirit that Master said will help us?" Rin Enbin exclaimed. "But why did you only appear now?" Luvia said with some suspicion. The two of them had been in Winterwood City for almost 4 days, but Wooming never contacted them, so it was inevitable that they would be suspected. "That's because I don't have to come out at all, but the current situation is not something you can handle, so I came out." After all, Zelik only asked Wooming to take care of the magician who came to collect the class card, not to help them all the time. With that said, Rin Enbin and Luvia felt relieved. Zelik did say that the hero spirit in Winterwood City wouldn't help them all the time and would only take care of them a little. In addition, the two of them were people who didn't like to admit defeat, which was why Rin Enbin and Luvia didn't directly look for Wooming when they came to Winterwood City. "Alright, the current enemy isn't something you can handle. Leave the rest to me." Wooming wasn't bragging. If Ruby and Sapphire were still in the hands of Rin Enbin and Luvia, they might be able to contend with Saber. But now, Ruby and Sapphire had recognized Ilya and Mayu as their masters. With Ilya and Mayu's current strength, they were far from being able to deal with Saber. After all, she was someone Wooming knew. No, it should be said that Wooming taught her before. Wooming looked at Saber, who walked out of the smoke unscathed, and said lightly, "I actually want to fight you. I don't know if this is a curse, Artoria. As if Saber heard him, her figure paused for a moment, and then continued to walk toward Wuming. After all, the servant transformed by the class card only had instincts and didn't have the slightest consciousness. Being able to pause for a moment was considered as being affected by the subconscious mind. And Wuming didn't treat Saber as the real Artoria. She was just a magical amalgamation with Artoria's appearance and ability. Saber raised the blackened holy sword in her hand and pointed it at Wuming. Wuming also took out the holy lance, mythical Yggdrasil. Since magic reduces the damage of the class card transformed into a servant, then let's directly determine the winner with brute force. Finished speaking, Wuming rushed up with a vigorous stride. Saber didn't want to be outdone and followed up with her sword. Bang! 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 The sound of weapons colliding with each other was constantly heard. Wuming and Saber kept changing their positions. In order to avoid affecting Rin Enben and Luvia behind him, Wuming deliberately led Saber away from here and to the river. On the shore, Rin Enosaka and Luvia fell silent as they watched the chaotic battle between the two of them. Indeed, Saber's ability was not something that the two of them could defeat. Not to mention, magic would reduce the damage of Saber, who had magic skills, even more. At this time, Mayu and Ilya, who were attracted by the fire, landed on the ground. Brother Wuming. Chapter 147. Brother Wuming? Mayu was surprised. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya asked in confusion. Do you know this heroic spirit? Rin Enben asked in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Luvia was confused as well. That's Mayu's older brother. He stayed at our house for a while, Ilya said. He's Mayu's older brother? Rin Enben and Luvia asked in confusion. Rin Enben found it strange that the big brother Ilya always talked about was actually a heroic spirit. Luvia also found it strange that Mayu's older brother was a heroic spirit. Speaking of which, was the heroic spirit's daily life so unbelievable? Although his hair color is different from the usual Big Brother, this is indeed Big Brother, Ilya said. Although Ilya had never seen Wuming in this form, she knew that Wuming wasn't an ordinary person. However, she was still worried about Wuming. After all, from what she knew, Wuming was only a mysterious magician. That's incredible. Mayu's older brother is actually a heroic spirit, Rin Enben said while rubbing his chin. Big Brother is a heroic spirit? Ilya asked. It seems like Ilya doesn't know anything. Rin Enben and Luvia thought. Everyone looked at Mayu, but Mayu didn't say anything. She only watched the battle between Wuming and Saber. Then, Ilya said, Then, Sister Rin, aren't we going to help Big Brother? Rin Enben said, How can we help? That's a battle between superior heroic spirits. Even if you have the protection of Ruby and Sapphire, you'll only be heavily injured if you get involved. Rin Enben's expression was grave. Based on the battle between the two heroic spirits, Rin Enben, who had some martial arts experience, clearly sensed that both sides weren't simple heroic spirits. Even Luvia had noticed that both sides were not simple. Rin Enben is right. All we can do now is watch from the sidelines and pray that Mayu's brother can defeat his opponent, Luvia said. Afterward, Ilya stopped talking and watched the battle between Wuming and Saber worriedly with everyone else. Right at that moment, the two of them separated and stood facing each other. Saber raised her black longsword, and a black light began to gather around the blade. Could that be a relic? Rin Enben panicked. Quick! Mayu, Ilya, we feel like we're far away from here, Luvia said to the two magical girls who were still watching the battle. Is that a precious artifact? Ilya said. That's right, Ilya. Through the detection of the magic power in the atmosphere, Saber's noble artifact has at least reached the A rank. It can instantly break through Mai and Xiaolan's defense. In order to avoid being affected, I feel that it's better for us to quickly leave. It was rare for Ruby to become serious. From this, it could be seen how powerful Saber's noble artifact was. Mayu-sama, let's quickly leave too. If we stay here, we'll just be a burden to my brother, Sapphire said. Because she met Wuming every day, Sapphire had a good impression of Wuming. Afterward, Wuming requested her to call him her brother. I understand, Mayu said. At that moment, Wuming's voice was heard. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. The four of them quickly ran into the distance. The scene changed. On the other side, it was the battle between Wuming and Saber. As it was on the surface of the lake, their battle did not cause much damage to the surroundings. With a feint, Wuming used a Loon rune to avoid water and stood on the surface of the water, looking at Saber. As expected of the best Saber class, plus it's because of you, she's even more difficult to deal with. Wuming said. Due to the ample supply of mana, the underground spiritual vein, Saber continued to release mana, and the black mana mist continued to accompany Saber. Even in close combat, Wuming could only have a slight advantage. At that moment, Saber, who agreed with Wuming's words, raised her holy sword, and the light of darkness began to gather. Sure enough, noble artifact is the key to victory. Then, Wuming waved his hand and shouted at Mayu and the others standing on the shore, she's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. Rin and Osaka and Luvia, who had already seen it, began to pull Ilya and Mayu away. After seeing that there were no signs of life around, Wuming also directly activated his noble artifact. My Yggdrasil! The white holy spear turned into a liquid, wrapped Wuming's right hand, and formed a metal-colored arm guard. Wuming's right hand was attached to the water, and a huge amount of mana began to gather around him, and then it exploded in an instant. It seemed like a long time had passed, but in fact, only a few breaths passed, and Saber's black holy sword also gathered the light. Excalibur, Excalibur! Saber's demonic words came out of her mouth, accompanied by a huge black light curtain. In contrast, the huge holy tree was growing wildly. The holy tree's branches frantically emerged from the water, constantly hitting the black light curtain. The black light curtain constantly destroyed the vines and branches, and rushed toward Wuming's location. Mayu and the others, who had almost retreated to a safe area, looked at the huge vines behind them colliding with the black light curtain, and couldn't help but worry. The black light curtain was gradually approaching Wuming. Even if the vines grew quite fast, it seemed a little difficult in front of the black light curtain. However, Wuming would not confront the holy sword head-on. A large number of vines emerged from the water around Saber in an instant, and in just an instant, they broke through Saber's magical fog and entangled Saber. As if it lost its source, the black light curtain instantly shattered, and countless huge vines rushed toward Saber's direction. In an instant, the river in Winterwood City was covered by green vines. After noticing that Saber had become a class card, Wuming stood up. Sure enough, even if it has Artoria's power, it's still just a mana block. Just like Wuming, at this moment Wuming's body was also made of class cards, but Wuming had consciousness. This was the difference between Wuming and other servants formed by class card. Controlling the vines to move Saber's class card back, Wuming held it in his hand. Wuming walked to the shore, looked at Mayu and the others coming toward him, smiled and waved. Looking at the few people who wanted to say something, Wuming said directly, "Anyway, let's get out of here first." Then, Kalas, who was on top of Wuming's head, said, "Magic circle, open." With simple words, a huge magic circle appeared under Wuming's and the others' feet, and with a flash of light, they disappeared from the mirror world. Chapter 148. After the mirror world collapsed, Wuming and the others appeared near the Winterwood City Bridge in the outside world. It's amazing, when did the master make magic attire again? Ruby looked at the golden-green dragon horn on Wuming's head and asked. Sorry, unknown kindred, big sister was a little rude. Sapphire bowed and said apologetically. Golden Green flew down from Wooming's head and said to the two wands, It's okay, my name is Golden Green, Kalispell. It's a support magic attire specially made by Master Zelik for Master, please take care of me. Then the dragon horn on the head made a human-like bow. Ah, so it's Goldie, I'm Ruby, Ruby. This is my sister Sapphire, Cephia, please take care of me. Ruby said. Big sister has troubled you, please take care of me. Sapphire said. Taking advantage of the three artificial elves' conversation, Wooming also began to talk. Mayu looked at Wooming with a puzzled expression and said, Why is Brother Wooming here? Looking at Mayu's puzzled expression, Wooming touched Mayu's head. Just think of me as a stupid big brother who wants you to grow but is worried about you. Sorry, Mayu. Wooming said apologetically. No, Brother Wooming, you don't have to apologize. If it wasn't for you this time, we might have all been killed in the mirror world. Mayu shook her head and said. Mayu didn't mean to blame Wooming. Rather, Mayu was secretly happy. Wooming worried about her meant that Wooming cared about her, which made Mayu happy. That big brother. What about me? Ilya asked weakly with a red face. Wooming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Of course I care about you too. Ilya and Mayu are my younger sisters. How can an elder brother not care for his younger sisters? Wooming's words made Ilya somewhat happy, and she smiled sweetly. Speaking of which, Rin and Osaka said, that class card hasn't been assigned yet. Rin Enbin looked at Wooming with a fawning expression. Humph, you barbaric monkey, why would the Honorable Lord Heroic Spirit give you a class card? Luvia taunted. Damn it, can't you just keep your mouth shut? Haven't you been tired enough from this battle? Rin Enbin glared at Luvia, his face filled with displeasure. Both Ilya and Mayu had helpless expressions. After all, neither of them would have any objections if the class card was given to Ilya or Mayu. Compared to Rin Enbin and Luvia, who didn't like each other, Ilya and Mayu's relationship was quite good. Wooming then remembered that he still had the class card in his hand. Wooming looked at the saber class card, then at Rin Enbin and Luvia, then at Ilya and Mayu. Then, Wooming made a decision. Then let's use the simplest rock-paper-scissors game to decide who to give this class card to. Huh! Rin Enbin let out a strange cry. Luvia also frowned. It seemed that the two of them couldn't accept this method. I think this method is not bad. Ilya touched her small face and looked at Rin Enbin and Luvia cautiously. In the end, Rin Enbin and Luvia sighed and sent out Ilya and Mayu to decide the winner of the class card. It was a best-of-3 game. In the end, under Rin Enbin's smug expression and Luvia's resentful expression, Ilya defeated Mayu with a score of 3-2 and received the saber class card. Ilya carefully put away the job class card. No matter what, this class card was given to her by her big brother. She had to keep it well. Although she didn't care who the class card belonged to, seeing Ilya's happy expression after receiving the class card, Mayu was a bit jealous. At this time, Wooming patted Mayu's head and said, When we go back, I'll make you omelette rice, Wooming's gentle voice sounded. Mayu blushed and nodded. Although we still have a lot of questions, it's already very late. Let's wait until tomorrow to ask, Rin Enbin said. A wise decision. Then, come to my house tomorrow, Wooming said. After discussing, Rin Enbin and Luvia left first. Wooming, Mayu, and Ilya stayed behind. That was what Rin Enbin and Luvia said. Aren't you Ilya's big brother? Then, I'll have to trouble you to send her home. You're Mayu's big brother. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Remember to send Mayu home safely. Wooming felt helpless, but he didn't dislike it. As Tuskahar said, she didn't dislike straightforward people, and Wooming was the same. The fact that they could treat him with a normal attitude after knowing that he was a servant of a hero spirit's clone was enough to show their temperament. Wooming recalled Kalas and put Kalas back on Wooming's head. The ruby and sapphire returned to Ilya and Mayo's hands. Let's go, Ilya. Mayu and I will send you home. Wuming held Mayu and Ilya's hands and began to walk toward Ilya's house. Wuming didn't like to use the portal anymore. Now, he liked to walk and enjoy everything around him. Unless there was an emergency or something important, Wuming wouldn't open the portal. On the way, Ilya carefully held Wuming's hand. I feel that Big Brother is warmer than Big Brother's hand. Ilya couldn't help but compare Shiro-Amiya and Wuming and put the scales on Wuming's side. Wuming, who didn't have the ability to read minds, naturally didn't know what Ilya was thinking. However, that didn't prevent Wuming from seeing Ilya's restraint. Then, Wuming spoke. Ilya, how do you feel today? Eh? What do you mean, how do I feel? Ilya reacted and asked in a panic. Wuming smiled lightly. The cooperation with Mayu, the blow that killed Castor, was quite good. Speaking of this matter, Mayu reacted. Mayu asked, why did Ilya choose that way? Then Ilya smiled and said, because I believe in Mayu. Mayu froze for a moment, then her face turned red. You guys still have a lot of difficulties to go through. You should know that we've only recovered 5 class cards. What's left is the most secretive assassin class card and the most violent berserker. Don't be careless. Silent reminded. Big Brother is right. Sapphire said, today, if it weren't for Big Brother here, we would probably all be killed in the mirror world. It's really lucky. Speaking of which, Mayo's brother is really strong. He can even defeat Saber. Ruby flew beside Wuming and said, it can only be said that the other party only has a mana block. It doesn't take much effort to deal with this kind of thing. If it really is a servant, the outcome is not certain. Wuming explained. Speaking of which, Ilya began to ask, where did Big Brother and Mayu live before? When this sentence came out, Mayo's expression became nostalgic. Chapter 149. After Ilya said those words, the atmosphere changed. How should she put it? The atmosphere at the scene gave Ilya the feeling that she had said something wrong. At that moment, Wuming said, Ilya, I won't answer this question. If there's a chance, you don't need to know this now. Ilya nodded as if she understood. After sending Ilya home, in order to avoid being discovered by her family, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. Then, after saying goodbye to Ilya, Wuming directly brought Mayu back to the Shuoyu mansion through the teleportation door. Seeing that Mayu was not calm, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. It's okay, Mayu. I'll take care of everything. Wuming comforted Mayu. No, brother Wuming, let us take care of it together. I have the ability now. Mayu looked at Wuming with a determined face. Wuming was stunned, then smiled. Stroking Mayu's head, Wuming said, I know. Go to sleep first. Collect the class cards first, then think about other things. After that, I'll collect the class cards with you. Mayu nodded obediently. After Mayu fell asleep, Wuming came out of the house. Then, Master, are you going to collect the class cards? Kalas asked as the golden-green dragon horn flashed. There are only 2 class cards left. Apart from Assassin Mayu and Ilya, they can't deal with Berserker. Wuming continued. They were almost wiped out when facing Saber, not to mention Berserker, whose sacrificed his rationality greatly increased. Then, do you need to train Mayu and Ilya? Kalas asked. Wuming thought for a moment, then said, you can do a small amount of training first, and then do a large amount of special training after you collect all the rank cards. Yes, Master. Wuming sat in the courtyard, looked at the moon, and fell into deep thought. The next day, after Wuming sent Mayu to school, Wuming took advantage of the time when he was back and went to a coffee shop. Walking into the coffee shop, Wuming ordered a cup of coffee. As if he was waiting for someone, Wuming sat down and drank leisurely. A moment later, Rin Enbin ran in, panting. Rin Enosaka ordered a cup of coffee and sat down. Phew! I'm not late, am I? Rin Enbin said. Because he ran over, his face was very red. Wuming shook his head and smiled. It doesn't matter if I'm late. After all, I have plenty of time. At this time, Luvia casually walked into the coffee shop, elegantly ordered a cup of coffee, walked to Rin Enbin's side, sat down, and drank leisurely. Although the two of them didn't like each other, they were facing a heroic spirit. When they had a common goal, the two of them could still work together. The two of them calmed down and looked at Wuming. Okay, now it's time to talk about your problem, Rin Enbin said. I have a rank card, Wuming suddenly said. What? Rin Enbin and Luvia exclaimed in shock. The sudden voice caused everyone in the coffee shop to look over. Rin Enbin and Luvia looked at the others with an apologetic smile. Then, Rin Enbin and Luvia calmed down and looked at Wuming again. You have a rank card? What's going on? Luvia asked. Yes, aren't there only 7 rank cards? Now, Leyline shows that there are 2 remaining cards that haven't been recycled. Rin Enbin also asked. Wuming calmly took a sip of coffee, then said, There are more than 7 rank cards, and I have a self-conscious rank card. Before you came to Winterwood City, the previous rank card recycler entered my mirror world and wanted to recycle me, but she didn't succeed. After that, I reached an agreement with Zelik and I stayed in Winterwood City. Although Wuming said his origin, Wuming hid a lot of things. So, can you tell us what your rank is? Rin Enbin asked, but he seemed to be very careful. After all, this was also considered as information gathering. Caster, Wuming said directly without hesitation. Caster. Rin Enbin and Luvia repeated in a strange way. Rin Enbin and Luvia thought that Wuming was a lancer. After all, last night, Wuming used a white spear to fight against Saber, who was known as the best rank, and he slightly suppressed Saber. Such an existence turned out to be a caster. I don't need to hide it from you. The reason why I hid it from the Magic Association is that I hate trouble. Wuming said. Rin Enbin and Luvia weren't stupid enough to ask, Aren't you afraid that we will spread your existence? The other party was a heroic spirit's clone servant, and he was also a caster who was good at magic. The two of them didn't think that someone who could fight against Saber didn't know magic. Moreover, the other party was a caster, maybe his magic was better than his martial art. I won't ask about the matter between you and Meiyu, I just want to know if you can really love Meiyu. Luvia asked. Wuming smiled at this, as if he was ridiculing her, but also as if he was helpless. If even I don't love Meiyu, then no one in this world will love her. Is that so? I understand. Luvia heard the feelings in Wuming's words, which wasn't something that a hypocrite like him could say. Then, Rin Enbin also began to ask, I won't ask about your relationship with Ilya, I just want to know if you will continue to help us recover the rank cards. Rin Enbin said. Of course, the next 2 rank cards are a bit too disadvantageous for you, I will be responsible for assisting you. Wuming replied. Indeed, Assassin and Berserker are indeed very disadvantageous for us now. Luvia analyzed. Assassin who specializes in assassination, Berserker who sacrifices his rationality to increase his attributes. Why are these servants so difficult to deal with? Rin Enbin complained. Moreover, the mirror world will shrink due to the continuous recovery of rank cards. If Berserker is the last to be recovered, then the mirror world is likely to become abnormally narrow. If Assassin is the last to be recovered, then it will be advantageous. Then that's it for now, I will find time to train Meiyu and Ilya. After drinking the last sip of coffee, Wuming left the coffee shop. Luvia also finished her coffee, put down the cup, and then very elegantly said to Rin Enbin, Then I will also leave first, Rin Enbin, I don't want to continue to see your face. Rin Enbin angrily looked at Luvia leaving the coffee shop, regardless of the temperature of the coffee, and finished it in one gulp. Humph. Really, do I like to see your face that much? Rin Enbin said. Waiter, the bill. Rin Enbin said. Hello, this is the bill for the three of you, please take a look. The waiter handed a bill to Rin Enbin. Then, Rin Enbin's expression was painful as he paid the bill. Chapter 150. In the afternoon, Wuming arrived at the entrance of Sui Kun Garden Academy's primary school and waited quietly. There were parents, older brothers, and sisters all around waiting for school to end. After waiting for a while, the bell rang, and the originally quiet school became lively. Primary school students walked out one after another. After waiting for a while, Meiyu and Ilya walked out. As Wuming had told Meiyu to bring Ilya over after school, Ilya, who originally wasn't going the same way as Meiyu, walked together with Meiyu. Brother Wuming, Meiyu called out to Wuming and quickened her pace. Big brother! Ilya waved her hand and also quickened her pace. Meiyu, Ilya, how was it? Did you have fun today? Wuming crouched down and asked the two. Amen. I had a home economics class today. I specially prepared a cake for Brother Wuming, Meiyu said as she raised the small box in her hand and showed it to Wuming. Then I have to give it a good try. Meiyu's cooking will definitely be very delicious, Wuming said with a smile. Ilya was not to be outdone. She raised the box in her hand and said, I also made it. Although it might not look as good as Meiyu's, the taste won't be bad either. Seeing Ilya's flushed face due to excitement, Wuming and Meiyu couldn't help but smile. Then, Ilya, did you have a good class? Wuming asked. Hey, I fell asleep in class today. It was Meiyu who woke me up. Ilya rubbed her head in embarrassment and said with a smile. Wuming stroked Ilya's head and said gently, It's a little too much for Ilya to sleep after midnight. It's normal to sleep during the day, but you can't fall behind in your homework. However, the two of them didn't notice that there were 4 people watching the conversation between Wuming, Meiyu, and Ilya in a corner not far behind them. As expected, Ilya and Meiyu's abnormal behavior today is because of that handsome guy, a mature girl with green pigtails, Kurihara Norika said. That might be Meiyu's older brother. I've never heard of Ilya having an older brother like that, Keihua, the girl with short black hair, Gue Mimi said. But there's no way to explain Ilya's abnormality, beautiful. The pink twin-tailed Nana Moriyama squinted her eyes and said, Speaking of which, why are we hiding here? Can't we just go over and say hello? Yujienza Longzi, the energetic girl with yellow hair and 2 buns, idiot, said. Kurihara Yorihana punched Yujienza Ryuko. Ah, it hurts. What are you doing, Keihua? Yujienza Ryuko said with tears in his eyes as he held his head. You idiot, we're here to follow Ilya and Meiyu. How can we show ourselves? That's right. Also, we're following them for Ilya and Meiyu's happiness, Nana Moriyama said. However, they didn't know that Wuming had already discovered them. Meiyu, Ilya, those over there are your classmates, right? Wuming faintly pointed at the corner where the 4 of them were hiding. Ilya and Meiyu turned to look. As expected, it was their classmate. It's them? Meiyu said in surprise. It's Ryuko and the others. Then, Ilya waved her hand and shouted at the people hiding in the corner. Now it was awkward. The 3 of them walked out in embarrassment. Only Yujienza Ryuko casually greeted Meiyu and Ilya. Yo Ilya, Meiyu. Then, Ilya asked in confusion, What are you doing hiding there? We're... Yujienza Ryuko was about to tell the truth when Kurihara Yorihana and the others covered his mouth. We're playing a game with others, Nana Moriyama said with a smile. Yes, playing a game. Kurihara Yorihana and Gue Mimi agreed. Although she was still curious about their behavior, Ilya didn't pursue it too much. As for Meiyu, when they were discovered by Wuming, she had already seen through their intentions. By the way, is this Meiyu's brother? The gentle Gue Mimi asked. Just as Ilya was about to introduce Wuming, Wuming spoke first. You're Meiyu and Ilya's friends, right? I'm Meiyu's brother, Shuayu Wuming. Thank you for your hard work. If there's anything wrong with my sister, please forgive her, Wuming said with unusual gentleness. So gentle. Kurihara Yorihana, Nana Moriyama, and Gue Mimi exclaimed. So cool. Ujienza Ryuko said with starry eyes. Only the heavens knew why she thought that the gentle Wuming was cool. Kurihara Yorihana pressed Ujienza Ryuko down and looked at Wuming apologetically. Are you going home? If you don't mind, let's go together. Wu Ming's smiling face struck the few of them, causing those who originally wanted to refuse to nod their heads as if they were possessed by gods and gods. Wu Ming had told Sila in advance yesterday that he wanted to bring Ilya to stay at his house for a night and accompany Meiyu. Hence, Ilya, Wu Ming, and Meiyu walked on the road to the Shuayu mansion. Coincidentally, the four of their houses could be reached from this road. Hence, the following situation was created. Wu Ming held Meiyu's hand while Ilya followed beside him. Ujienza Ryuko and the other three followed behind them. Ilya kept chatting with Wu Ming. Meiyu would say something from time to time. Gradually, the four people behind Wu Ming stopped talking and looked at this scene. After a few minutes, Nana Moriyama said, By the way, what's the relationship between Ilya and Brother Wu Ming? My relationship with Big Brother? The sudden question stunned Ilya. She stopped, and the others also stopped. Wu Ming replied, Actually, Ilya's adoptive brother Shiro Amiya and I are adoptive brothers. Oh, isn't that Big Brother's big brother? Ujienza Ryuko shouted. He is both Meiyu's big brother and Ilya's big brother. What a strange relationship. Kurihara Takika pushed up her glasses and said, It can be considered so. Ilya said somewhat unnaturally. Then, does Ilya like Big Brother more or Big Brother's big brother more? Nana Moriyama still had a smile on her face. But Wu Ming seemed to see the word conspiracy on her face. Huh? AI. Ilya shouted in panic, her face instantly turning red. You and Brother Wu Ming are so happy. Could it be that Ilya has fallen in love with Big Brother's big brother and Meiyu's big brother? Ilya's face instantly turned red. Her eyes turned into circles and she fainted. Ilya! Everyone's exclamation reached the sky. Chapter 151. After a while, Ujienza, Zheilongzi, and the other three left one after another because they had reached a place where they needed to turn. Wu Ming and Meiyu walked on the road, while Ilya was carried on Wu Ming's back. Her face was red with embarrassment. Previously, Ilya, who had a weak tolerance, had fainted from Nanao Tortoise Moriyama's words. Wu Ming had no choice but to carry her on his back. Ruby and Sapphire flew out from Ilya's and Meiyu's school bags and floated in the air. I didn't expect Ilya to be so pure. You can't take it after being said a few words? Although love is also a magical girl's right, it's obvious that you're not qualified, Ilya, Ruby said in a strange tone. Ugh! Ilya, who had long since woken up, buried her head on Wu Ming's back. Ilya, who was already extremely embarrassed, became even more ashamed after hearing Ruby's ridicule. Please have mercy on your words, sister, Sapphire said from the side. Meiyu suddenly said, It seems that Ilya likes Brother Wu Ming very much. Looking at Meiyu who was looking ahead, Wu Ming used one hand to drag Ilya and freed one hand to casually stroke Meiyu's head. What, are you jealous? Wu Ming teased. No. Meiyu turned her slightly red face away and said in an unnatural tone. Is that so? What a pity. I still want to carry you next time. In that case forget it, Wu Ming said with a smile. Meiyu instantly turned her head away and looked at Wu Ming with her red little face. Ha, I'm just kidding. I'll carry you next time. Wu Ming laughed loudly. Big Brother and Meiyu have such a good relationship. Ilya, who was lying on Wu Ming and watching the interaction between the siblings, said. Are you jealous too, Ilya? Wu Ming turned to Ilya. That's not it. I was just saying. Magical girls have to face their own hearts, Ilya, Ruby teased again. You are very annoying, Ruby. Ilya's eyes were filled with tears as she waved her arm, wanting to hit the Ruby. Wuming hurriedly comforted Ilya when he sensed her shaking on his back. Calm down, Ilya. Then, because of Ilya's request, Wuming put her down from his back. Then, as if to eliminate the awkwardness between the two of them, Wuming began to change the topic, and began to talk about the two of them today. As magical girls, the two of you are qualified. However, when facing powerful enemies, the two of you still have flaws, Wu Ming said. Sensing the change in the atmosphere, Ilya and Meiyu became serious. Especially when encountering unexpected situations, Meiyu's performance is much better than Ilya's. After hearing Wu Ming's words, Ilya subconsciously lowered her head. Wu Ming patted Ilya's head comfortingly. But there was nothing that could be done about it. After all, Meiyu came into contact with magic after being adopted by Wu Ming. After so many years of influence, Meiyu was much more mature than Ilya in all aspects. And Ilya was only a 10-year-old elementary school student. A few days ago, Ilya was even an ordinary person without any foundation or knowledge of magic. Compared to the others, Ilya could be said to have done a great job. But this was far from enough, including Meiyu. So, today, I will give the two of you some training. Wu Ming looked at the two of them and said solemnly. The two of them also straightened their bodies and looked at Wu Ming solemnly. At this moment, Wu Ming brought Ilya and Meiyu to the Shuayu residence. I've already arranged a virtual space, specially used for training. The two of you will be trained by Kalas and me in turn. As if responding to Wu Ming's words, the dragon horns on Wu Ming's head appeared and shone. Please give me your guidance, Ms. Ilya, Ms. Meiyu. Please give me your guidance, Kalas, Ms. Ilya and Meiyu replied. Then, Wu Ming opened the door to the virtual space, and a blue space door full of technological feeling appeared at the side. There's no time to lose. Let's begin. Ilya and Meiyu walked into the space door, and so did Wu Ming. What entered their eyes was a blue sci-fi virtual space. After entering, Wu Ming first changed the background of the space to the wilderness. Then, Wu Ming had Ilya and Meiyu transform. Then, he began to teach the two of them. Because you have rubies and sapphires, you don't need to worry about the supply of magic power. Thus, what you need to do is to control the precision of the magic power used when releasing magic bullet. Wu Ming said in all seriousness. Meiyu is a bit better. As for Ilya, a lot of the magic power consumed when releasing magic bullets is dissipated in the air due to her improficiency. Ilya and Meiyu were lost in thought as they recalled. So, you need to control the output of magic power more precisely and use less magic power to release more powerful magic bullets. Take Ling and Luvia for example. If the two of them transform, the magic bullets they release will be much more powerful than yours. Then, Wu Ming concealed the method of controlling magic power for Meiyu and Ilya, and the two of them began to practice. It had to be said that Ilya and Meiyu were extremely talented. In just a few hours, the two of them realized what Wu Ming said about using less magic power to achieve greater result. Then, let's begin the training of cooperation. After saying that, the Kalas above Wu Ming's head left Wu Ming and flew into the air. Next, I'll train the two of you. I'll use the virtual enemies in this space to attack the two of you. After saying that, the virtual enemy Rider Medusa that Meiyu had killed with Gibalg appeared. Ilya and Meiyu were somewhat puzzled as to why Kalas would project an enemy that had already been defeated. Don't underestimate Rider. If it weren't for the fact that she was releasing her noble artifact at that time, Meiyu wouldn't have had the chance to get close to her. Then, as if responding to Wu Ming's words, Rider Medusa appeared in front of the two of them but did not attack. Then, the two of them instantly acted as if they were facing a great enemy and no longer underestimated each other. Wu Ming nodded with a smile and left the virtual space. Before leaving, Wu Ming said to Ilya and Meiyu, "Do your best. I'll make delicious food and wait for you in the outside world. As if receiving a large number of buffs, Ilya and Mayu summoned their fighting spirit. At this age where one was unwilling to admit defeat, even Mayu would not surrender to an enemy that she had already defeated. The training began. Wuming walked out of the space. Seeing that it was not too late, he began to prepare the food. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.